Okay. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment being held electronically via Zoom on July 27, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Publics Meeting Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the sunshine notice of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Such notice has been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and by transmitting a copy of the notice to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the clerk of Princeton on July 18th, 2022, and has been posted to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. Pursuant to the extension of the ongoing state of emergency by Executive Order number 292, in accordance with the Emergency Remote Public Meeting Protocol for local public bodies to conduct public meetings without physical attendance by the members of the public, notice that during this extension of the state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, and the Times, and was filed with the clerk of Princeton on the 24th day of April, 2020. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the Princeton website, and are to be maintained throughout the year, and by transmitting a copy of same to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, Comcast Media, Comcast Media, and by filing a copy thereof with the clerk of Princeton. Notices have been placed on all window doors of the municipal complex. Claudia, can you please call the roll?
Chen,
Here.
Paulson,
Here.
Mr. Davidge, Mr. Floyd,
Here.
Mr. Shriver, Mr. Tannenbaum,
Here.
Mr. Stein,
Here.
Ms. Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have three resolutions this evening. The first is case Z 22-186, 239 South Harrison Street, block 11001, lot 36 in the R5 zone. The resolutions are in your packet. Does anybody have any questions, comments, corrections, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Did you call me?
Stein.
I couldn't hear.
no, sir, I didn't. We're doing 30 Chestnut, correct?
No, we're doing
239.
239 South
239
Harrison.
South
I'm
Harrison.
sorry. Okay, Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Ms. Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Our second resolution is case Z 22-170, 220 John Street, block 15.04, lot 8 in the R4 zone. Again, the resolution's in your packet. Questions, comments, or motions, please.
I'll move approval of the
you.
resolution.
I'll second.
Thank you. Claudia?
Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Ms. Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, we have 4 applications this evening. The first is case Z 21-166.
Steve, wait, did we do one Did we do 30 Chestnut?
No,
I'm
Okay.
sorry, we didn't, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Got ahead of myself. Okay, the third resolution is case Z 22-218, 30 Chestnut Street, block 30.01, lot 25 in the R4 zone. Questions, comments, or motions, please?
I move to approve.
Thank you.
second,
Thank
Stein,
you.
Olson,
Yes.
Floyd,
yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Ms. Donna.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now on to the applications. Our first application is case Z 21-166, 144 Byard Lane, lot 3.02, lot 34 in the R1 zone in the former borough. Karen, are the notices in place?
Yes, the board actually took jurisdiction of this last month, but carried it at the applicant's request. So
Okay.
you're ready to hear the application tonight.
Thank you. Derek, do you want to do your memo?
And I'll
Review
just
them?
swear you in this for the evening. Mr. Bridget, you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. The applicants, Yassine Bentis and Sandra Smilkovic, are the owners of 144 Bayard Lane. They are seeking a C1 variance to permit the construction of a new home, an exception to the required lot area, lot depth, and lot width. An additional bulk variance is requested for the height to setback ratio. The properties in the R1 zone in the former Princeton borough. The lot is currently vacant, and the subject lot is non-complying with respect to the required 20,000 square foot lot area. The existing is 9,478 square feet. It's non-compliant with the lot width requirement of 125. The existing is 93, and it's non-compliant with the lot depth requirement, which is 125, and the existing is 100. The applicant is seeking both C1 and C2 variance relief to permit the construction of a 2,800 square foot home on a lot in exception to lot area, lot width, and depth. The new home will feature a full basement, 2-car garage, living room, kitchen, dining room, den, 4 bedrooms, laundry room, and a powder room, and 3 full baths. The project requires the following variances. The lot area requirements 20,000, existing is 9,478. As I said earlier, lot width is required to be 125, the existing is 93. The lot depth requirements also 125, and the existing is 100 feet. And the height to setback ratio on the right side, the requirement is 1.5 to 1, and the proposed is 1.5 to 0.66. And they've requested consideration under both the C1 and C2 criteria. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions of Mr. Berger? Okay, do we have the applicant or the representative? Is that you, Mr. Brennan?
Yes, it is. Good evening.
Okay,
Logistically, first off, thanks for having us. But logistically, I think our client, the applicant, and our professional planner, Tom Stearns, and another witness, the builder, are all in the waiting room. They can see the video, as I understand it, but if we could allow them to come in as participants.
What are the names again, please?
Yeah, it's Thomas Stearns, the planner. The applicant is Yazine and Sandra Bentis, and the builder is Baba Ogunro. I'm sorry.
okay.
All right. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Bentis.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And is Tom Stearns in there yet? I'm not seeing.
Yes,
him
I'm here.
Soon.
Wonderful.
I'm
Good evening,
here.
Tom.
Hi.
And Baba, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. So first of all, again, thank you to the board for hearing us and for carrying this application since the last meeting. Mr. Bridger's summary at the beginning of this meeting is accurate. This applicant purchased this property last year. They are intending and proposing to build a single-family house with 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. A single-family house with 4 bedrooms. Yeah, they're intending to build a single-family house with 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a 2-car garage. The variances and other relief that Mr. Bridger detailed is accurate. We have 3 witnesses this evening. The first is the applicant and owner of the property and the party who proposes to build the house, and that is Sandra Bentis. The second witness is Baba Ogunro, who is the builder. And the last witness is Tom Stearns, who is a professional planner, and he'll be presenting the planning testimony with respect to this application.
Mr. Brennan, why don't we swear everybody in now, and then when you get to Mr. Stearns, you can qualify him.
You read my mind.
Mr. and Mrs. Bentis, Mr. Stearns, and Mr. Ogunro. I can't see Mr. Ogunro, though. Can we get him on video or? There you are. All right. Mr. and Mrs. Bentis, Mr. Stearns, and Mr. Ogunro, do you all swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
We do. I do.
Thank you.
Our first witness is Sandra Bentis. Sandra, just have a few questions. You heard the introductory summary from Derek Bridger, the zoning officer for Princeton. And if you could just tell us about your plans in general. I understand you purchased the property last year, and you've been working diligently both with your builder, architect, and the town of Princeton, and Mr. Bridger in particular, to obtain the approvals that you might need to build this house. What do you intend to build here?
So good evening one more time. Our intention here is to build a house, a single family home that will really fit into the current community, and a house that is going to be harmonious with the neighborhood, but also practical and suitable for a family. We are a family of 4. We do have 2 little boys, and really looking forward to joining the Princeton community.
Thank you. And this is a home. The home you're intending to build would be occupied by you. You're not renting it out to anybody. You intend to be the family occupying the house. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. This would be a 4-bedroom home built on 9,480 square foot with a 2 garage, 2-story. I'm not sure if this is a good moment to perhaps share my screen and show the design of the house.
You'd like, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're muted. We can't hear you.
Already. I'm not sure. Just a moment.
When you call it up, Sandra, we'll identify what it is and mark it as an exhibit for purposes of this hearing, okay?
Okay, sure.
So go ahead and screen share it.
Let's try. I think we do have some technical problems at the moment. Let's see if we can fix this. Does anyone have a Frank or a Baba? Are you able to share perhaps, or?
I could. Well, you want to show? Okay.
Okay. All right.
Sorry
So
to
you can
interrupt.
just scroll all the way to the top. Thank you. Okay, so this is the design. It's a contemporary home. The front and the back portion showing here. The back. Can you hear me well?
No, it's breaking up.
We heard you just now.
Yeah, I heard you, but then it kind of fades in and out.
How about now? Is it better?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so as you can see here, this is our design of the house. It's a contemporary home. It's a 2-story house with a 4-bedroom. You can see down the front entrance and the back side of the house. There will be 2-car garage. And if you may scroll down, I believe it's on the 3rd page, we can see the layout of the first floor. Okay, it's a little bit tiny, but I'll try to guide you briefly. Thank you. So we would have an open space living room on the first floor with a small office room. And then on the second floor, there would be 4 bedrooms. Okay, this is actually the layout of the first floor. Okay. So like I said, it's the open space dining room and the kitchen and the small office room. And then we have, as we enter the house on the left side, a small foyer that goes directly to the garage. The second floor would have 4 bedrooms. So one of them is the master, 2 small size rooms, and the guest room. 2 small size. So that's all. Just briefly, I'm sure you will have more technical questions that can be addressed by my team. Thank
Mr.
you.
Brennan, you want to call this Exhibit A1? These are, I guess, collectively construction drawings. I think that's what it said on the title page.
Yes, that's correct, and that sounds good. A1 they are.
Okay.
All right. Frank Brennan here again, and we do not have any further questions for Sandra, but we're happy to entertain questions from members of the board or the professionals before we proceed to our next witness.
Please continue. Does excuse me, board members, do you have any questions of the previous witness? No, please continue.
Thank you. We have available a witness, the builder, Baba Ogunro. We don't propose to offer any testimony from him at this point. He's really here available and under oath in the event the board has questions that Sandra or Yazin cannot answer with respect to the design of the home and the layout and so forth.
Okay.
That brings us really to our next witness, Tom Stearns, who is a professional planner, and he will address the waivers and variances related to this application. Tom, if you would give the board the benefit of your background and experience, have you testified before this board in the past?
I've testified before both the borough and township zoning boards of adjustment, as well as before the regional planning board numerous times for, again, for C and D variances. I've testified before numerous planning and zoning boards for C and D variances in Hunterdon, Mercer, Middlesex, Ocean, and Somerset counties. My license is current and valid.
Thank you. We asked the board to accept Mr. Stearns as a professional planner and expert in New Jersey planning matters.
No objection to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stearns, I know that you have had an opportunity to review the application, the ordinance, the master plan, the county master plan, Mr. Bridger's professional memos, the architectural plans, and the site plan prepared by Van Note Harvey Associates that's part of the application. If you would, please, can you describe more from a technical perspective this particular site, how it's laid out, what the size is, the subdivision history, et cetera?
Sure. Additionally, I visited the site, I've evaluated the neighborhood, I've prepared an analysis for the proofs. And I think what might be beneficial is if I pull up, if I could share my screen and pull up the engineer's site plan.
And the exhibit you're calling up, if you were going to identify this, if we may, as Exhibit A2, and if you can, Mr. Stearns, tell us who it was prepared by and what the date is of the plan we're looking at on your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, there's something wrong with this plan. It's bear with me a minute. Let me close this out. There's a problem here. Let me reopen this real quick. Sorry about that. Sorry, bear with me here. That's not what I wanted. Jeez. Sorry. There we go. There we go. Can you see that? You see the colored plan?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so quick, some context here.
And Mr. Stearns, before you proceed, so this we're going to mark as A2.
Okay.
And as I understand it, this is a site plan with a revision date of July 25th, 2022, prepared by Ralph Petrello, a professional engineer at Van Note Harvey Associates. Is that the same
Yes.
one you're looking at?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so here's the site. The site's right here. This is Route 206, Bayard Lane. 206. Why am I echoing?
It is echoing, yeah.
I don't know whether maybe a lot of the participants are not muted, which sometimes gives us an echo.
Well, sorry about that. I'm not sure how to fix it here on my end. Okay, so there's the site. There's 5 lots right there, just north of Westcott Road, and all these other all the lots right there are about the same size. They're all undersized. They all have the same issues as the applicant's property has. We're in the R1 zone, which is the yellow there. Across the street is the university housing, and then we have Lee Avenue with the R4 that bumps over there. And then here's the site plan. Here's the site. We got a lot width of roughly 89 feet, a lot depth of roughly 100. Here's the proposed location of the house. This is the driveway. This is the garage, side entry to the garage, sidewalk, front steps. There's a rain garden here. We're set back 11 feet here from the north property line, and we're set back almost 25 feet here from the left property line. Let me call up one other exhibit here. This, can you see that? The Princeton Township zoning map?
Yes.
Okay.
And-
So that'll be another.
Mr. Stearns, let's identify that as A3. And is there a date on that zoning map?
I don't remember.
That's okay.
It's a partial of the Princeton Township zoning map, just showing context. So here's where the site is in the borough, and this is the zoning on the other side. You have the R9 north of Lee Avenue. There's that little S2 area there. There's a Shell station and a spa there, and then we have the R5 above that, and then R5 over in this area. So that just gives you the context of where we're at. So I think I'm done with the exhibits now. I'll stop the share. And I'll just go into this. So right now, currently it's a vacant lot. This is a unique situation where the lot was originally improved in 1954 and really has remained vacant all this time. The lot's been there like 68 years. Again, it's an undersized lot. And the other 5 lots along Bayard Lane there are roughly the same size. They have the same issues. And again, the west side of Bayard Lane is really heavily wooded, a lot of mature trees. You can barely even going down 206 there, you can barely even see the homes in there. I've gone through all the context. The variance is required. So we have the lot area per dwelling unit, 20,000 square foot required, roughly 9,500 square feet provided. The lot width, 125 feet required, 93 feet provided. Lot depth, 125 feet required, 100 feet provided. And then we have the building height, and those are all pre-existing conditions, those 3. So really any applicant coming in here, whoever buys that property, come in and put a home on it, is going to need those C variances for hardship. So then we have the building height, the setback ratio. Essentially, we need a variance for the right proposed setback only. We're at 11.1 feet, required is 16.86. So I would suggest to the board that it's a de minimis amount that we're short, a little under 6 feet. Now, as far as the left side, trying to understand all the ratios and everything, I was initially confused and spent a lot of time chatting with Derek about this, and we finally figured out that the left side actually complies. Anyway, and I'll go into the side yard setbacks later. I just want to go in and start the proofs. So the proofs for a C1 for the MLUL, there's 3 of them. It's by reason of acceptable narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions, physical features uniquely affecting a specific piece of property, or by reasonable or extraordinary and exceptional situation uniquely affecting a specific piece of property. So what really must be shown is that there is a peculiar and acceptable and exceptional practical difficulties. There is exceptional and undue hardship on the applicant per all the proofs above that I just went through. So through my planning analysis, there's really kind of two main issues here. There's really the lot size, the lot being too small, and therefore the lot width and the lot depth are not compliant. These are pre-existing conditions. There isn't anything anyone can do about that. That's why we're asking for a C1 hardship. The height to setback ratio is really a function of the proposed home and the setback. So anyways, so going into the lot too small, lot width and lot depth. Again, this is a unique situation. The lot was approved back in '54, and it's remained vacant all this time. This C1 request is unique and particular, specific to this lot. The property is uniquely constrained by exceptional situation due to the undersized lot that was originally approved in '54. This is the only way to develop the lot with a single family home. Any applicant who purchases this lot would need to obtain the same variances. So regarding the height to setback ratio, so the lots adjacent to lot 34, roughly the same size or even slightly smaller. So they're all non-conforming lots as well as to lot size, lot depth, and lot width. And the side yard setbacks on those homes are similar to what is being proposed by the applicant. So lot 33, which is just north of 144 Bayard, lot 34, again, that's an 89 by 100 foot lot. The right setback is roughly 27 feet. The left setback is only 10 feet. The lot to the south, directly to the south, lot 25 at 136 Bayard, it's an 85 by 100 foot lot. The right setback is 5 feet. The left setback is 27. And then further down, lot 21, which is 128 Bayard, 85 by 100 foot lot. Again, right setback is 7 foot, left setback is 26. So I visited the site, and the adjacent homes are mostly 2 stories, so they don't comply with the height of the setback either. Just on a quick casual observation. I mean, I wasn't out there with a tape measure, and I couldn't really measure everything. So what is proposed is very similar to what currently exists on the adjacent homes at Bayard Lane. There are existing mature spruce trees on the south side of the lot, which will buffer the lot to the south side, 136 Bayard, but that setback complies now. Regarding the proposed home, the house size is reasonable. I would call it a simple, conventional, and modest 2-story single-family home. Essentially 2,400 square feet of living space with a 420 square foot garage plus basement. So total of roughly 2,800 square feet. The floor plan is simple with foyer, kitchen, dining room, living room, and den. Second floor plan has three bedrooms plus a master bedroom over the garage for a total of 4 bedrooms. As far as scale and proportion go, I would say that the proposed home is reasonable and similar in scale and size to the others in the neighborhood and will fit appropriately into this neighborhood. It's not like some of the large estate homes you see built west of Bayard Lane or other parts of town where you see the demolition of residential structure and the replacement of smaller, modest-sized homes with much larger estate homes. The height of the peak is less than 35-foot maximum. The roof is sloped to minimize the impact. I think shrinking the building size would make the rooms too small. The proposed setbacks are not visibly unreasonable, in my opinion. Again, it's sort of a proportional setback. So you could do a single family home and comply, but it would be only like maybe 800, 1,000 square feet with a garage. That's a very small 2-bedroom home. However, it's really not practical for the applicant. They have two children, I think age 2 and 4. So the use is permitted. Again, we comply with the height, which is 35 feet, 3 stories. We're under that, and we comply with all the other setbacks. I would say the strict enforcement of the ordinance creates the hardship. The lot is not producing tax dollars for the municipality. If the variances are not granted, you deny the applicant the reasonable and practical use of his property. And I want to offer the C2 proofs. So per the C2, there's really 5 prongs or 5 proofs to offer for C2. I'll go those through real quickly. Prong 1 relates to a specific piece of property. Again, the variance in question relates to this application, 144 Bayard Lane site, block 3.02, lot 34, in the R1 zone. Prong 2, the purposes of the MLU would be advanced by deviation. So it promotes the following purposes of the MLUL. Paragraph A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Why? Well, there's no physical problem with developing the lot as a single-family home. If the variances are not granted, you deny the applicant the reasonable use of the property. This goes to the identified need in the 2017 re-examination report that there is a shortage of developable land in the municipality. So this lot was available, and now that's getting developed. Paragraph G, to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for residential uses. This is an infill project for an undersized lot that has been vacant for 68 years. It's an appropriate use. Paragraph I, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangements. Why? Is a unique and creative plan for a single family home that is consistent and fits in with the character of the existing neighborhood, and to encourage coordination of various public-private procedures and activities shaping land development in view of lessening cost. So why this will provide a good residential rateable for the municipality. Prong 3, that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. There's no negative property value effects. In essence, there's no negative effect on surrounding properties or damage to the character of the neighborhood. The single family use is conforming. This is a unique creative design solution. The proposed home fits into the character of the neighborhood. Prong 4, the benefits of the deviation will substantially outweigh any benefits, the detriments. The benefits of allowing the applicant the ability to develop this with a single family home outweigh any detriments. We don't see any detriments. Prong 5, the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. It is consistent with the purposes of the R1 zone. Other than the variances that are requested. It's consistent with the master plan and re-examination updates, meets many of the goals of the 2009 land use element on page 20, maintains a balanced community that offers a mix of land uses, providing appropriately scaled community infrastructure and services. Preserves the existing character and mix of commercial, residential, and other land uses in the Princeton community, and guides future development with due regard to the impact upon future taxes as well as other costs that might adversely affect residents and diminish the opportunity for affordable housing. Preserve and protect the character of the established neighborhoods. The 2017 re-examination report mentioned some key issues. Again, a shortage of vacant developable land to meet many of the competing needs of the community and meeting the housing needs of the growing senior population, and maintaining a range of housing opportunities to ensure a diverse population of all age and economic levels. The plan addresses those issues. The amended 2016 Mercer County Master Plan proposes a broad regional planning framework for guiding growth and conservation opportunities in the county over the next 20 years. Plan meets many of those broad regional planning goals. The plan won't impair the intent and purposes of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. The intent of the zone plan per the R1 ordinance is to provide single-family development. The property will be a new single-family home and supports the R1 zone purpose. The R1 zone is roughly 93 acres. The lot is only like 2/10 of a percent. 2/10% of the R1 area. So it's very de minimis. There's really no impairment. Our plan is not blocking the uses in the underlying zone. Applicants still have the ability to do all the permitted uses in the R1 zone district. Will not prohibit any other applicant from developing their site in the R1 zone. The application satisfies the criteria for the MLU for the grant of both the C1 and C2 variances. Therefore, the zoning board is authorized to approve the requested relief. Thank you. I'm finished. I'll take any questions now.
Thank you, Mr. Stearns. And I don't have any questions for you, Mr. Stearns. At this point, we'll certainly open up the floor to board members or professionals.
Board members, does anyone have any questions of any of the witnesses? I have a question. Mr. Starnes, in your presentation, you mentioned that the house to the north, I'm looking over at another screen, I've got an aerial photograph of it.
Right.
The house to the north, which appears to be like a 1.5 story
Mhm.
house.
Mhm.
How close is that to the property line? I believe it would be on the south side of that house.
Let me go back to my notes here. I roughly scaled that off an aerial. Where is that? Sorry,
It's okay, take your time.
lost in space and time here. All right, here we go. House to the north. I roughly scaled again. It's like roughly 10 feet, the left setback.
10 feet. And it's that end of the house, which is a smaller footprint than the rest of the house,
Yes.
is a single story. My concern is this is obviously, this proposed home is 10 feet from that property line also, but it's significantly higher. And I'm wondering if now I know the lot is challenging in regards to the setbacks, front, rear, and sides. There's no question there, but did you consider, or did the applicant consider possibly moving the house further away from that lot line and going a little bit back? I recognize it may need a rear yard setback, but there's a significant stand of trees between this proposed house and the house behind it. I'm just concerned that this house will overwhelm that very modest home to the north.
It's just, yeah, that house is a 2-story house, and there's kind of a 1-story section on that side.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
you add R11 and they're, I mean, you're like roughly 20, the building is going to be like roughly 22 feet away. I mean, it's, I don't think it's going to be an issue personally.
Okay. I mean, I'm just concerned that it's, when you look at it from the front, that it's just going to overwhelm that little house. All right, that was, again, just my comment. That was it. Does anyone? Go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, Frank, well, this would be, I guess, hearsay testimony. I don't know if you want to.
Well, I'll just jump in if I may, Mr. Chairman. I did review the subdivision history of the properties, and although I'm not testifying, it is public record. If you're looking at Google Earth, you can see that property to the north, at least on Google Earth, has a for sale sign. And looking at the subdivision history going back to 1954, when the applicant's lot was subdivided, it apparently was owned by that neighbor to the north. Now, that was 68 years ago, but certainly historically, there was an understanding that there was going to be a house built next door. And I guess further, I don't want to speculate, but it's anybody's guess as to whether that current house to the north stays in its present configuration, or whether being a property that's now marketed, and it may have even been sold recently, whether that changes. But I'll stand by Mr. Stearns' testimony that he doesn't, from a planning perspective, doesn't see a significant impact.
If history follows through on this adjacent property, the way a lot of things are going in Princeton, the house next door will be raised, and then a house most probably of equal size to this would be proposed. But
I don't disagree.
that I just wanted to voice my concern.
Thank you.
Okay, do any other board members have any questions of the applicant or the witness? Okay, all right. Mr. Brennan, we're going to open this up to the public, but you want to say anything before we do that?
Well, certainly welcome the public's input, but in general, I would really just be echoing the testimony of Mr. Stearns, the planner, in that when you look at this, both objectively and subjectively, the applicant is coming in with a fairly modest, by any standard, a fairly modest 4-bedroom home. They've worked very, very hard over the past 8 months to come up with a plan that complies as best they can with the unique constraints of this property. The square footage of the house, the size of the garage are all reasonable. And most importantly, I think, is Mr. Stearns' testimony that the proposed home, the applicant's proposed home, is really in line and harmonious with the neighborhood. This is designed to fit in. It doesn't really differ in any material respect with the setbacks and the lot sizes in this neighborhood. And the variances that are needed are largely inherent in the size of this property as it was subdivided 68 years ago. 68 years ago, it was deemed an approved building lot for subdivision purposes. But here we are now, 68 years later, and of course, times change and the ordinances change, and so now the applicant has some relief that it must seek in order to build the home. So, with all that said, the applicant believes this is a reasonable application, a reasonable size home, and they certainly look forward to becoming part of the Princeton community with their 2 children.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to open the floor up to public comment. Claudia, do we have anyone who's raised their hands wanting to speak?
Not yet. No hands.
No hands, okay. I'll give it a second here, but all right, well, look, if we have no one that would like to speak, I'll close the public portion of the hearing. And again, Mr. Brennan, before we go into executive session, do you want to say anything else? Make another statement?
No, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, but I'll rest on what I've stated so far. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, board members, our chance to discuss this. Any comments? opinions, motions? Well, I made the only comment the first time. I'd like to say I actually agree with I mean, not that it's surprising, but I agree with Mr. Brennan. This is a very challenging lot, and Mr. Starnes, it's a very challenging lot, no matter how you approach it. The home is a modest home in terms of square footage, which is a little bit refreshing. Again, if the house next door, which is pure speculation, gets torn down and they do come before us, then we're going to have to deal with the same situation or something similar on that lot. I believe that the applicants are well aware of the potential for the development of the adjacent lot. I would support this application. Generally, my attitude has been, when you're building a new house on an existing lot, it should conform to all the zoning requirements. But I recognize that this lot is actually more challenging than a lot of other lots. So I would support the application. Board members, any other comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
I guess I will say, Steve, that I agree with what you said. And the odd shape of the lot, I see it as a C1. It's irrelevant for me, but the comment that this house was not, or a house wasn't built in 68 years because of the zoning, I don't agree with that. It's probably just because the Legy family didn't sell it and didn't develop it. They owned a lot of property down in that corner. They were pillars of the community then. And so I do take exception that the zoning stopped it from being developed. The owners didn't want to develop it, is my guess.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, Mr. Floyd, if I may, I would agree with you too, as I understand the history of the property and the who the owner was and what they owned and how they were present in the Princeton community. If I said, if it was my testimony you're referring to,
No, it's not.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
the plan said that.
I don't,
Gotcha.
I don't believe I said that.
Oh, okay. I won't debate it.
I
It's
didn't
on the
blame it
table.
on the zoning.
Yeah. No, I think
It's on the
our
table.
understanding is what you said, Mr. Floyd, that they live next door, that they got their subdivision approval in 1954, and for whatever reason, they didn't sell it off or develop it in any way. My point simply was, in 1954, it was an approved building lot, and it's still a buildable lot today, but only with the relief that we're seeking.
It actually could be a buildable lot without the relief, but that's another discussion. But
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Would someone, any other comments, or would someone like to
No,
make a
I'll
motion?
second. Yeah, I think we already have a motion, right?
Do we?
Yes.
I think so.
I did.
I-
Okay.
Michael, didn't you move it?
No, I said I agreed with Steve. I didn't
Oh,
formally move.
okay.
I didn't mean to. Or not mean
Okay.
to. I just didn't do it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll, please? Claudia? You're muted.
Ken,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Tenenbaum,
You're muted.
Yes.
now.
Mr. Stein, Ms. Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Good luck with your new home.
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Chairman, members of the board, Ms. Casey. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, our next application is case Z 22-209, 21 Chambers Street, block 19.03, lot 56 in the CB zone of the borough. Karen, is all the
Yes, the
notices in
noticing,
order?
yes, the noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction tonight.
Thank you, thank you. Derek, can you review your memo with us?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Chambers Street Realty LLC is the owner and Jaguan Physical Therapy is the applicant. They're applying for a use variance pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-71 and related site plan approval to permit the conversion of a bank use to a physical therapist office in a zone where such use is not permitted. The subject property is located in the CB zone, which has a prohibition on office uses on the first floor in accordance with section 17A 304 and 306. And the previous retail bank use is a legal non-conforming use. The property received a variance in, I believe it was 2006 to permit the Bank of Princeton at the site. The applicant proposes to utilize the existing 3,080 square foot space as a physical therapist office, which will feature a lobby, recovery room, strength training area, office restrooms, and a staff break room. The proposed use is considered a medical office use, which is not permitted in accordance with section 17A 305B9. Use variance is required. In terms of bulk variances, there is no parking on site. In the previous resolution of approval for the bank required that 4 parking spaces be leased off-site. Section 17A-316A provides that off-street parking requirements set forth in sections 17A 315 and 316 shall only apply to new construction. No off-street parking or loading berths shall be required for any use or change of the existing structure or for any expanded parking or new non-residential use within an existing building, except that any off-site loading or berths already provided shall not be removed or converted for other purposes without site plan approval. 4 off-street spaces were required in the previous application. The applicant should provide a lease agreement for 4 spaces or seek variance relief from the parking. In terms of the site plan, there's really minimal external alterations to the building. It is located in the historic Central Business District and is subject to review by the Princeton Historic, and excuse me, it's not subject to review. It's right outside the district. So there's no stormwater management increases, no driveway connections change. We don't anticipate a measurable traffic impact from the proposed use from the previous bank use. Pedestrian, bicycle, and safety, no impact is anticipated. We ask that the applicant, if the board is inclined to approve the application, consider installing bike racks on site. I've already talked about the parking. No new utilities are proposed. The applicant should discuss how trash and recycling will be accommodated on the site. And the applicant, in terms of advertising features, is proposing an illuminated main business sign. And after conversations with them, it appears that the source of illumination will be behind the letters and will comply, and a variance is not required for the the sign they are proposing. And that's a quick summary of my memo. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Berger? Okay. Mr. Cataldo, are you representing this applicant?
Yes, good evening, Chairman. Lawrence S. Catello of the O'Toole Scrivo Law Firm, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Jaguan Physical Therapy LLC.
Okay.
Before we begin tonight, I just would like to confirm that there are 7 members of the board in attendance tonight that are available to vote on the application.
Yes, I believe we have 7.
Correct. Yeah, and everybody is eligible to vote tonight.
Thank you. If you give me a moment to introduce the application, I'd like to do that, and then I can call our witnesses. As you heard from Mr. Bridger, the applicant, Jaguan Physical Therapy LLC, seeks approvals to occupy part of the first floor of an existing building at 21 Chambers Street to establish a physical therapy office. The site is fully developed, is located in the Central Business District zone, and was formerly occupied by the Bank of Princeton by way of a use variance to permit an office use on the first floor in the Central Business Zone. Because medical offices are not permitted in the CB zone, Jaguan seeks a use variance together with minor site plan approval from this board. The applicant tonight will be calling its architect, Joshua Zinder, a representative of Jaguan Physical Therapy, David Motisi, our traffic engineer, Georges Jocksmart, and Keenan Hughes, our professional planner. And all those witnesses will be appearing and presenting testimony that supports the application for minor site plan approval and use variance to allow the portion of 21 Chambers Street to be occupied and used as a physical therapy office.
Okay. Karen, do you want to swear in all the witnesses at one
I
time?
can do that. Let's see, we have
Your
Mr.
Honor,
Young.
excuse me, Karen, I think
Yeah.
we need to bring Josh Cinder to the panelist side so he can be sworn in.
Okay,
Is there anyone else, Mr. Cataldo, for your team that needs to be brought over?
I think that everybody else is in.
Thank you.
all right, so we just need to see Josh Cinder. If we can get video for
He's
him.
logging on. I'm working on it. Sorry, I don't know, it's a little slow tonight. Okay, think that, there we go.
Okay, so let's see, we will now swear in Mr. Zinder, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Jacquemart, and Mr., is it Motisi?
That's right.
Motisi? Okay. Do you all swear for your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, all the witnesses having been sworn in, I'd like to call Joshua Zinder, New Jersey registered architect.
We'll accept Mr. Zinder as an expert witness.
I don't even get to show off. Oh.
Nah, you've done it before. We're good with it.
So let the record reflect that Mr. Zinder has the requisite qualifications, has been qualified by this board before as a expert in architecture, and that the board has so qualified him again here tonight.
I'd like to share my screen here so we can walk through everybody a short presentation. Good evening, everybody. So here you see the 21 Chambers site as it currently exists. And I'll just walk you through some of the site information. So here we have the first time that the building, I should say, showed up on this property. It was originally the Mercer Engine Company number 3, which eventually moved across the street to 16 Chambers. The building that you see today was built in 1949, and it has been occupied, as far as I'm aware, as an office space for its entire life. It was originally a realty company, was in this location, and for a number of years, and there was a printer there. So the site is, as we should all know, it's really right in the center of town. It's walking distance to the entire university and to the neighborhood, and that's critically important for the client Jaguan, as you will hear. And here you see the limit of the central business district and the location of the site. And then if we zoom in a little bit, here you see, I'm assuming everyone can see my cursor. Here you see the building location right here next to the parking garage. This is a use diagram that we've put together showing all the adjacent properties. Now, one of the things that Chamber Street in many ways has become a destination street within the town. So there are offices on the ground floor around Chamber Street. There are bank uses and have been bank uses along Chamber Street. And there are also medical uses along Chamber Street as well, directly across the street. And that's really, important to understand how the street is used. And even though ground floor office is not permitted within the central business district, in this particular street as a destination that it is, it's a common usage, and most likely I would say an appropriate usage for this location in town. If we zoom in a little bit more, here you see the site. There's the right of way between the garage space and this building. There are 3 foot, well, actually they're deeper than 3 foot planters along the side of the building. They actually extend past the property line. The property line is 3 foot, 3.4 feet off of the side of the building by the right of way, and 3.7 feet in front of the building. And we can talk about where a bike rack might go. We really like the idea. We just honestly don't know where to put it. The area in the back is a garbage enclosure. There's a little fence back there. So we're not really sure where we could put the bike rack. I think Jaguan is amenable to including it, but we don't know where it would go, where it wouldn't impede traffic in some way. Here you see the plan for the Jaguan space, the intended use. There, it's a physical therapist. There'll be equipment and treatment beds and a waiting area and some office space in the back. There's an existing office tenant in this part of the building, and that's not necessarily part of the scope of this project, that existing office tenant. Here you see the front of the building and the signage as it existed with the Bank of Princeton. And now this is the way the building currently looks. This is the intended signage that Jaguan intends to put on. This was done by Blue Mark Signs, this drawing. And if we look at the sign itself, based on the discussions with Derek, just to clarify, the letters actually wrap a solid metal letter wraps all the way around the Jaguan letters. There's an acrylic backer and LED lights behind that. So they're halo lit, lets off a slight glow. In the previous document, the sign had extended 5.5 inches out. We've pushed it back. So except for a 1-inch panel in the back, instead of a 3-inch panel in the back, it sits only 3.5 inches off of the fascia. So it's a lot more compact, but it'll allow the sign to properly illuminate. Here you see that. As far as the use, it's we're not really affecting the exterior of the building. And it's a use that's, as I mentioned, I think fits in well with Chambers Street. Many of the people here will be walking to this location, and the few that don't will be parking in the adjacent lot. So that's all for the presentation. This is actually labeled A1, Exhibit A1 on it, and we sent this to you in advance as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zinder. That is all we have for Mr. Zinder's direct.
Okay, please, I think we'll wait till you present all your witnesses and then we'll ask questions.
Very well. Our next witness is David Motisi, Vice President, Project Management for Jaguan Physical Therapy.
Good evening. Thanks, Larry. So as you mentioned, I'm the VP of Project Management for Jaguan Physical Therapy. I'm a New Jersey licensed athletic trainer with an MBA. I have 10 years experience working both in the clinic as a healthcare professional and managing construction projects throughout New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So a little background on Jaguan. We are a comprehensive outpatient physical and occupational therapy company which provides rehabilitative care for general orthopedic, sports, and soft tissue injuries, as well as workers' compensation patients and Medicare patients. Jaguan serves the tri-state area with facilities throughout New Jersey, soon to be all 5 boroughs in New York, Long Island, Rockland County, and Pennsylvania. So our success has been driven by our ability to service the local community, and that's really what's driving us to this location. So back in October of 2021, we became the official physical therapy partner for Princeton Athletics. And through this corporate partnership, Jaguan supports Princeton athletic programs, provides injury prevention content, educational programs, and serves as a resource for sports medicine rehabilitation services. So what does this mean? We're essentially a resource for not only the athletics department, but the entire campus. And I can tell you from my personal experience working as an athletic trainer at the university level, I definitely understand the benefit of having a local physical therapy group that can assist that department. How we service the community is mainly through grassroots marketing. We have clinical directors that are responsible for networking locally and maintaining a presence within the community. This is done through whether it's local 5Ks, library presentations, and in general, just being a medical resource for the community. Generally, how the physical therapy office operates, if anyone has ever been to one, outpatient physical therapy, nobody's being dropped off with an amulet. Everyone that's entering our facility is ambulatory, meaning they're either walking themselves in the door or on crutches or on a walker, something of the sort. Essentially, they'll be checked in at the front desk, reception, wait in the waiting room, be brought back by the physical therapist, start off on a treatment table, spend some time doing corrective exercises on the open gym floor, and then being discharged for the day. Typical sessions run between 60 to 90 minutes maximum, a little bit longer on the initial visit, and then usually a 60-minute treatment session is typical. Our hours of operation are proposed to be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. As far as patients on a weekly basis, our plan is to see, at a maximum, we can see up to 21 patients per day, with 9 total patients and staff being in the office at the same time. With an average of 2 to 3 patients per hour. So, I mean, given a 3,000 or just over 3,000 square foot facility, we expect this to be a 1 to 2 shift office, which to us means 1 to 2 licensed physical therapists that will have an alternating schedule.
And Mr. Motisi, both the hours of operations and the number of patients that you ran through a moment ago, those are anticipated, and those are what you believe you would be doing at this time, and those could always change in the future. Is that correct?
That's what we expect to ramp up to as a maximum.
Okay. At this point, I believe Mr. Motisi has gone through his direct testimony and have no further questions or information to elicit from him.
Okay.
And if the board is holding questions to the end, I'll move right along to our next witness, and call Georges Jaguan, professional engineer, AICP of BFJ Planning.
We are very familiar with Jaguan, and we would definitely accept him.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Zoning. We submitted a short review letter on parking and traffic to the municipality, and I'll give you a quick summary. From a parking point of view, the current zoning for downtown does not have any categories for a physical therapy office or medical office, and does not have any parking requirements for bank offices either. So in this case, the closest use that is in the zoning code would be office, both for the medical office, the physical therapy office, and for the bank. So from a zoning point of view, the parking requirement is exactly the same, it would not change. We have looked, in addition, we have looked at the parking statistics that we have from the Institute of Transportation Engineers. As you probably know, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, we call it ITE, has substantial data for offices and banks and physical therapy offices and so on. From that point of view, if we use those data for the 3,080 square feet here, there's a slight reduction in parking demand for this particular use compared to the bank use that was there before. It's not even, if you do the calculation, it's not even a full space, but it's 3/4 of a parking space. If we look at traffic generation, ITE also presents data on how many vehicle trips are attracted to these uses on a per 1,000 square feet. The physical therapy office performs much better than the bank office that was there before. And so we estimate that during the morning and evening peak hours, traffic reduction, the traffic generation used in this space, generated in this space, would actually decrease by roughly 20 to 30 vehicle trips in the morning peak hour and the afternoon peak hour. So there's a slight advantage from a traffic point of view that this change in use would generate. That's basically my testimony. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And Mr. Jaguan, before we move on to the next witness, I would just want to clarify for the record that you prepared a report entitled Traffic and Planning Impacts of the Proposed Conversion of 3,080 square feet at Chambers Street in Princeton by BFJ Planning, dated March 7th, 2022. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And I'd also like the record to reflect, as the board chair recognized at the outset, that Mr. Jaguan has been recognized by the board as an expert in traffic engineering previously, and has also been recognized at this time as an expert in that field. With all that said, we are ready to move on to our next witness, who is Jaguan's professional planner, Keenan Hughes of Phillips Price Gregel, Leaning and Hughes LLC.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Hughes. How are you tonight?
Excellent. Thank you.
Could you give the board the benefit of your professional and educational experience?
Yeah, sure. I'm a licensed professional planner in New Jersey and a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I'm a principal with Phillips Price. I have a master's in science in the field of urban planning. And I've previously appeared as an expert before both the Board of Adjustment and Planning Board in Princeton, as well as a number of other municipalities throughout the state.
Okay, we would accept you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hughes, could you explain the board what you did to prepare to provide your testimony tonight?
Sure. I was retained by the applicant to evaluate the experience request. So I reviewed the application. I visited the site and the surrounding area, and I reviewed the correspondence from the board's professionals, in addition to reviewing the municipality's master plan and zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Could you give the board the benefit of your opinions relative to Jaguan's request for use variance relief for its proposed physical therapy office in the at 21 Chamber Street?
Yes, so as the board is well aware, it has the jurisdiction to grant a D1 use variance in particular cases and for special reasons. And here, for the positive criteria, special reasons can be found in the fact that this site is particularly suitable for the proposed physical therapy use. And that's really for a number of reasons. So first of all, as the board is now aware, there's a well-established office use at this property. The bank use was previously approved back in 2006. The adjacent tenant is also an office use. In this case, the use variance is technically required because this is considered a medical office and therefore a change of use. But it's important to keep in mind that the office uses are permitted and therefore deemed appropriate within the CB district. It's just not in the ground floor. So the use itself is not incompatible with the character of the central business district. It's just a location that's really under the board's review as part of this application. And from a planning perspective, the intent of such a provision, which is very typical in downtown environments, is to encourage retail uses that provide an active and engaging street level experience for the pedestrian. But I would say in terms of office uses, a physical therapy facility is actually quite active. You have clients visiting the building throughout the day. Also, the physical presence of the use will have a storefront type appearance with transparency and a pedestrian oriented look. And that's compared to other types of office uses, which create a much less lively and less engaging appearance. And in addition, as you heard from the architect, the tenant space lends itself very well to a physical therapy office layout. And in fact, converting the building to a compliant retail use would really be an architectural challenge and financial burden, which is unlikely to find market interest at this point. So despite the CB zoning of the property, this site actually is off the beaten path from a retail perspective. And in fact, that was part of the board's rationale for the original approval of office use at this site. And as Mr. Zinder pointed out, it's not surprising that there is a number of other existing office uses in the surrounding area along Chambers Street, including in the building itself and just across the street. And the property is also adjacent to the Chambers Street garage, which provides convenient parking for employees and clients within walking distance of the building itself. So this is really, in my view, an excellent opportunity to lease up this vacant space and to do so in a manner that will actually contribute to the vitality of the central business district. And so for all those reasons, in terms of the positive criteria, I think both purposes A and G of the municipal land use law would be advanced. And then just finally, as it relates to the negative criteria, you've heard extensive testimony this evening. There's simply no evidence or concerns about any potential negative or adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. So therefore, the board can make the finding that there's no substantial detriments to the public good. And then in terms of Princeton's zoning ordinance and master plan, it's my opinion that granting a variance to allow the physical therapy use in this specific tenant space will not impair the municipality's planning and zoning efforts. Again, the site is previously approved for office use. It's not located on a prime retail corridor despite its zoning. And as you know, there have been drastic changes in the retail world in recent years. the pandemic, the rise of e-commerce, other factors, and there's simply not the same demand for bricks and mortar retail uses. So that's certainly a changed circumstance that I think the board can take into consideration in its review of this particular application. And again, despite its office classification, this use is actually quite active and will actually contribute to a vibrant streetscape along Chambers Street. So all of those points, in my view, provide the basis for the board to reconcile the grant of a use variance here to allow the ground floor medical use in this specific location without undermining Princeton's planning and zoning efforts, and in particular, its encouragement of retail and an active streetscape throughout the downtown. So in conclusion, from a planning perspective, it's my professional opinion that the applicant has satisfied both the positive and the negative criteria for the requested use variance. And with that, that would conclude my direct testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. At this point, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has called and gone through all its direct testimony, and the witnesses and the applicant are willing to answer any questions the board has regarding this application.
Okay. Board members, do you have any question of the applicants or the applicant's witnesses?
Yeah, I do have a question. I'm not muted. Okay.
Go ahead.
Particularly because this involves physical therapy. Is this space currently handicap compliant, or do you have to do some renovation or remodeling?
I guess I'll speak to that. The building itself, the entryway is compliant. We are making some modifications on the interior for handicap accessible bathrooms.
Thank you.
Good question, George. Yes, Donna.
I gather, I know you're teamed with Princeton Athletics, but you're looking for not just clientele from there, but from the community, yes?
Absolutely, yes. The university is what is driving us here. So we actually have a sort of Princeton clinic currently. It's really more of Plainsboro out of the Forestral Village. So we're really trying to be a bigger part of the community being in that central business district.
Okay. My experience with physical therapy is when I go to physical therapy, I can't walk or bike, and that's why I'm going to physical therapy. So I'm driving. So my question is, do you have any other physical therapy locations? I know you have a lot of locations. Do you have other locations where the parking is not in a lot, but like in a garage that's a little bit separate, in a paid garage, and how has that worked out?
Yeah, so I think Brooklyn is probably our best example of that. We currently have 20 offices there. Obviously, there's a lot of mass transit that services New York, but patients find a way, and we do serve a very active community as well. So it's not just the post-surgical patient or anybody that's coming in with a severe debilitation, but patients do find a way to get there. That's for sure.
And have you guys looked at the Chambers Street garage? I don't know how crowded or not crowded it is, but you feel it will accommodate the number, at least, what is it, 25 a day, 21 patients, plus maybe 3 therapists?
That's our expectation. Georges, do you want to?
Yeah, I think I can answer that question. We have inquired with Chambers Palmer Square, and they do have reserved parking. They do also have room for monthly parking permits for people that are not their own tenants. So there is room in the Chambers Street garage for short-term parkers, visitors, as well as for monthly parkers.
You feel there's enough room during the day?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Mr. Zinder brought up about not being quite sure where a bike rack could be put. And I'm sorry that I didn't catch what the requirement was for that in this spot, or is there a requirement for there to be one?
That was a staff recommendation.
Yeah.
No requirement. So, excuse me.
So I just wondered, I was looking at the drawing on the inside, and I wondered if there was any possibility that you could, or if it's done in this kind of setting, that you could maybe have something up on the wall if there's an entry space there. It just was a thought I had. If it's a recommendation, then we don't have to solve this problem, but it would be good, you know, it seems like it'd be good if you could, and I wondered if you thought about that.
I could clarify that. So we did look at putting them on the interior, hanging on the wall, but anywhere where we put it's going to impede our handicap accessibility on the interior. The front of the space, because of the adjacent office, is narrower. So there really was no circulation space. We could put them on the interior. So we
I just looked at it quickly and I didn't know if I could see that. So I wondered about that.
we did look at the exterior and you know, the Jaguan is amenable to adding some bike racks, just not quite sure where to put them, that they won't become an impediment to public circulation.
Right.
And if staff has a recommendation, we'd be open to it.
Is anyone from the hotel here tonight, or Mr. Zinder, did you have a chance to speak to the future neighbors across the street about parking or other issues and traffic and things like that?
Well, I've talked to a number of the people up and down Chambers Street about traffic and parking, but honestly, I don't think Jaguan has anything to do with those issues. It's really more about the construction that's going on. So I don't know if I'm not sure.
No, I'm just thinking, because if there's going to be increased traffic, it's those people who are injured. I think the point that was made earlier about not being able to walk or bike, then we're going to be dealing with more cars
I think,
over there. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, especially with the hotel. So I'm trying to figure out what has been done to address that.
yeah, so I think technically George could probably address that better than I could.
Okay.
So.
Yes, you may remember we did a detailed traffic and parking study for the graduate hotel. And, you know, the hotel as it is proposed now, it's under construction now, generates less traffic than what the office building was there before. You know, before the hotel, there was fairly active office spaces in there, and, you know, that traffic was higher. And the hotel also provides its own parking. You know, the basement level of the hotel will be an attended parking space where, you know, the cars will be taken at the upper level by a valet and taking it to the basement, and where they park them, you know, in a much more compact manner than in a self-parking lot. So from a parking and traffic point of view, the hotel presents a very manageable condition. You may remember we talked a lot about it at this particular board. So we don't foresee any issues there. We felt that the hotel will provide enough parking for its employees and for its the residents at the hotel. And as I said, the traffic generation was less. We did look at the impact that the vehicles would have on the intersection of Chambers and Nassau. And it was not a very, you know, substantial impact, and it was not as the traffic generation of the hotel was less than what the office was generating before. The difference was that the office before did not have any parking at all, so people had to park a little bit all over. It was not necessarily as concentrated as it is with the hotel, but that was looked at in detail.
Thank you.
I would just wanted to clarify 2 points. Derek, in your review memo, are you recommending as a condition of approval that the applicant provide lease agreements for the 4 spaces? I couldn't tell if that's what you were suggesting.
We said either provide leases agreements or request a variance.
All right, so you mean as a condition of approval?
No, I mean, the board has to, the applicant should decide what they want to do, either.
No, I understand that. I understand that, but your recommendation to the board is that in some fashion, it needs to be covered by the approval. Either the applicant's going to agree to provide the lease agreements. And they haven't asked for a variance, so I assume they're not looking for that tonight.
The applicant is willing to provide those lease agreements as a condition of approval if the board favorably looks upon the application. And the applicant hasn't done so yet because, it would be presumptuous to go out and lease parking spaces before we know we can occupy the space.
And the other clarification, this application covers only a portion of the first floor, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. But part of the building is occupied, I believe, by a real estate office, and there's no change to that part of the building, and that part of the building is not affected by this application.
And the real estate office use is on the first floor, or it's on the second floor?
There's only one floor.
First floor as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I just follow up about the,
Please.
in other words, leases in the Chambers Street parking garage? Is that what we're talking about? Leasing parking spaces?
Or somewhere.
In a garage, I mean, obviously people they're gonna have a greater parking demand than 4 spaces with staff and clients, and people will find their parking spaces, but by requiring 4, which was the last approval of this site, and the last finding of fact said that any conditions of the previous approval would have to be approved by this board. So you have to assume, as in most businesses, this building had no parking to begin with, and the uses has been there for 50, 60 years, and it continues to survive, and people will find spaces to park. And I think you can analyze the testimony that was provided tonight and make a determination on whether that works.
Do we as a board have an interest in or the ability to say we'd like those spots to be used for patients? Is that, or we just really don't?
It's really difficult with a 4-story garage. I mean, I think the applicants can speak to this, I don't know how that would work.
I think anything we could do to decrease the burden of getting our patients in the door is going to be advantageous to us. So having a minimum of 4 spaces, I couldn't agree more, could only benefit us providing services to our patients.
Great. Thank you.
I should, if you don't mind, I should clarify also, our estimate of the parking demand is only for about 5 spaces. And remember, not all 21 people that are estimated to come in during a day are there at the same time. And not everyone will drive. Some people will walk and so on, and some people may be dropped off. So that from the actual parking demand that we're talking about, it's going to be in the range of about 5 spaces. I think that would include employees and visitors.
So 5 for visitors at a time.
For employees and visitors. That's what the statistics tell us based on data that were collected at medical offices.
At physical therapy offices?
Not specifically physical therapy, but medical offices. This is very close to, in terms of its functioning, is very close to a medical office.
Mr. Motisi, is 4 enough at a time for patients, you think? Is that
5 for them, total.
5 for patients?
Total. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Where parking is available and we have dedicated parking at our facilities, we found that that's sufficient.
5, okay.
Mm-hmm. And again, anything we could do to decrease the burden. There are other sites in, let's say, Hoboken, where we provide parking vouchers. I think it's a tremendous advantage to have the parking garage directly adjacent to us. So we will definitely leverage that as best as we can.
And you may give patients vouchers to cover the parking cost?
If that's an opportunity the parking garage will grant us, we will absolutely. And again, we've done that at other facilities that have the same type of layout. Hoboken is a good example.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, are we, if this is approved, it's only for this specific change of use for this specific applicant, correct?
Yes, I believe so. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, you're granting a use variance for a physical therapy office, so that I think would run with the property in the future. However, the applicant has explained sort of the maximum hours of operation and, maximum employees, et cetera. So if the board feels that the future use should be limited by that, unless that applicant or that user wants to come in for an amended variance, I think you could do that. But having granted the use variance, if in the future it's not Jaguan anymore, it's someone else, or I suppose potentially if it's some other medical use and that applicant tries to argue, well, you approve physical therapy, that's the same as what I want to do, except I'm going to have a doctor's office, or I'm going to have a dental office. And Derek, chime in if you disagree with this, but
The only concern I would have is if we change the use from, again, it was a bank and now potentially it could be physical therapy. If it changes to a doctor, a lawyer, or something else, the parking may become an issue. So I think it would be to our advantage to be able to hear it again, to discuss the parking.
well, I mean, we can certainly hear from the applicant on this. I would think if this physical therapist, it changes and it's different physical therapist, I would think they're entitled to continue to make that.
Oh, no, I would agree with that if the next tenant is the same as a previous use, I can understand that, but if it changes again, I would think we should have the opportunity to rehear it.
Derek, if it were a different medical use, if it were a doctor, would that change your analysis? Would that generate
I mean,
parking, or?
it wouldn't generate any parking difference. I mean, it's an office use. I look at it as an office use. And that was one standard for parking for an office use. And I mean, I would feel comfortable with a physical therapist going into the space if these guys left. I don't, it's a doctor. I'd have to get more specific about it, about what their scope of operation would be.
I would just think that it would give us just a little flexibility to discuss the parking. But, again, Derek, I would defer to you on this.
I mean, you guys have put similar conditions on in the past on these use variances, so whatever the board is comfortable with.
Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm trying to remember what we did. I believe just down the street on the corner of Chambers and Hullfish, when the financial, I think it was a bank, went in on the corner. And I think we did some limit on, because it was a non-permitted use on the first floor, and we did something to limit that.
Yeah,
I
don't remember it. I don't remember it either.
I don't know specifically how we worded it.
At one time, there was a real estate office that was a use that was particular to the Palmer Square residences that were being constructed at the time. So that was limited to their activity. So, and then Bryn Mawr Trust went in there and.
Yeah.
Perhaps I can help with this discussion. The applicant was required to seek minor site plan approval in addition to the use variance. I'm not familiar enough with the ordinances, but it's my suspicion that minor site plan approval might be triggered on the change of a tenant or a change in use, and you might have an opportunity to review the application on that basis, again, to consider all the issues you raised. I would, throw that to, just put that out there, rather than trying to impose some conditions that might be onerous on this applicant.
Thank you. Other questions? I have a couple. As luck would have it, 16 years ago, I voted against the bank going into this space. But I've grown since then, and I actually think this particular use is a good one for the space. I think it would be nice to have a physical therapy office downtown. We have a lot more apartments than we had 16 years ago. You'll have an affiliation with the university. I think that's a real advantage. So I like the use. What I'm concerned about, though, are the bike racks. It's minor. Parking, I'm concerned about parking, but we have several parking garages in the area, and you've committed to 4 spaces, and I think that would probably do it. But I think bike racks are a good idea, and I was remiss. I didn't go walk to the side of the property and look behind the building. Is there a way, Mr. Zinder, do you think that area can possibly be redesigned to get a bike rack in there? I think a bike rack, in my opinion, is kind of essential to this. People from the university, people from downtown, it's a great location for this use, and I think it would be an advantage. Is it possible to redo that area to get a small bike rack in there?
I think we'd have to talk to the building owner and better understand the trash requirements, because that's actually a trash enclosure, so that the trash cans aren't seen from the public right of way in the back there. You're asking if it's possible. I mean, suppose it could be possible, but you'd have to modify the fence and open up some of that space in the back. The other possibility, I suppose, would be to extend the concrete slab into some of the planting areas, which would alter the impervious coverage. So I don't think that's the greatest idea.
Are you talking about on the side of the building, on the alley side of the building?
There are planters, there's in-ground planters that run.
Yeah, I know that. I'm familiar with that sign. I walk by it twice a week.
And the only possibility would be to alter the trash enclosure, and I certainly don't feel comfortable. I mean, I'm speaking for the owner of the building, that would be okay. We'd have to review it with them.
Okay. Well, other than, I don't think there's anybody here representing the owner this evening, is there?
Your Honor,
Yes, please.
I don't know if there's space in the front, but I'm happy to meet with the applicant and the land use engineer to see if there's a way that we could possibly get a few racks. Obviously, the owner of the property would have to agree to that, but perhaps there's some space in the front for 1 or 2 bike racks that would leave sufficient pedestrian passageway. So,
Yeah, the bikes could be parallel to Chambers Street. That's a good suggestion. I just think that this location, in a sense, cries out for bike racks. So, all right. So maybe you can look into that with our engineer. So that was one question. The other one is, again, I like the use. I don't like the sign. I understand the need for a sign, very important. I just think that the sign itself it's a nice little building. It's just a very simple building. And I think the sign is not as nice. And I was wondering, I'm looking at your sheet, Mr. Zinder, A3-1. Can you bring that up? Can you share your screen and we can look at that for a moment? It's to see it's a blow up of the exterior, the front. Yeah, it looks to me that on the right-hand side, you've got a horizontal light. On the left-hand side near the door, you've got a vertical light, but below the horizontal one on the right, it looks like there was something in there that was filled in at some point. But is it possible to do something a little more, I would say, in keeping with the building in that area? The light's right above it. And I just think that the sign itself is inconsistent with the building. And I think it would be aesthetically more pleasing to have a simpler sign there. That's one question. Where is sign number 2 located? Is that on the door?
On the door, yeah. right.
Okay, I couldn't see that. Okay. But I just think that the replay, I just don't like the sign in that location. I think it's big and intrusive. And I think that this little area to the right of the windows could be a nice, very simple sign. Yeah, there was something there before. Could it be something there again? And it has a light over it.
Well, the previous sign for the Bank of Princeton was right over the doorway.
Right, but again, the design of that sign is significantly different than the design of the proposed sign.
Right, because they were not illuminating the sign.
Yeah, okay, I mean, I understand, but I'm just thinking that is it possible? Again, I'd like to hear from other board members of this, but I just think that the sign is not consistent with the architecture. And I think it could be a lot nicer possibly in that location, or quite frankly, even something similar to what was done for the Bank of Princeton.
Right, so just to answer your first question, there was a night deposit drop over on the side here, where that light is turned.
Mhm.
You know, again, this is a property owner situation. I'm not sure what their intent is now, you know, if they're gonna turn the light to match the other ones or not. You know, or if they're planning on leaving it that way.
I don't disagree with the assessment, and in all honesty, we'd be willing to make a concession on the sign to be more in line with the building. That's no issue, and I don't totally disagree with you there.
Okay, can we do
Clarify,
something?
I think the chairman,
I think if I could-
clarify that. So does that mean just moving the sign over to be in the center of the building, over the doorway?
Are you talking about the sign that you're proposing?
Right, I want to be clear what you're.
Well, I don't like, quite frankly, I don't like the design of the sign. I don't like the logo itself is fine. I would rather have something that's a little more in keeping with the style of the building, similar to either the Bank of Princeton sign over the door, or possibly something maybe even illuminated or whatever, illuminated from the light above on the wall to the right of the window, just something simpler rather than this sign.
So if these were to be, let's say, standoff letters in the same, I mean, this is their logo, so.
Yeah, I know, I understand that.
Have their logo and the rest of the letters centered over here with a downlight over it, a cove light over it, that would be something you would find reasonable.
I would.
Is it their logo you don't like?
No. What I'm saying is, okay, all right.
Yeah,
I would think the letters and the physical therapy, the height of the graphic should be smaller. I think that the illuminated sign is inconsistent with the front of the building. I don't care whether it's over the window or over the door. I would also think another location would be on this brick wall below the existing light. I just think that something a little more in keeping with the simple style of the building would be more appropriate. And so I would, Derek, would this be something that you could work with the applicant on to come up with something?
Well, I was going to ask our attorney if we could appoint a subcommittee.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
I would.
My
I would
idea
work
may
with
be
him.
different than your idea, and I think if that's acceptable to our
So
board attorney.
One thing to I guess, you know, this is the sign is compliant with the ordinances, so.
I know it is. I know it's compliant. And I'm just making the comment that I just don't care for it.
We will revise the sign and submit it for review.
Okay, I mean, Derek, I would work with.
Just to see it, but we'll revise it.
Okay.
Well, I may invite the chairman to help me analyze it.
Okay, then that's fine. Okay.
And that would be fine with the applicant we would prefer to work it out with Mr. Bridger. We would prefer not to have a subcommittee assembled, and we would prefer not to have to come back to the full board on this issue.
Oh, no, I don't think it's necessary.
No, we didn't
Back to
we
the
didn't
full
mean to
board.
return back, but just
Yeah.
have a board,
Yeah.
No, well, we get it. We just want the record to be clear in that regard.
Okay, so I was questioning the sign, the bike rack, and I think you've agreed to lease the 4 parking spaces?
We do.
You did?
We do agree. I'm sorry, we
Okay, good.
didn't yet do it, but yes, we do agree to do that.
Okay, so the only question then is, does this approval go with the land, or would a change in use from previous uses require you to come back to us? Do any of the board members have any opinion of that?
Well,
Steve, when you say a change from previous uses, what do you mean?
Well,
In
the
this
2
case-
previous uses that I remember
Yeah.
are the bank, and
Yep.
then it would be this one. So, and I say it purely on parking. That's my only concern. Just the opportunity to look at a change in use again, purely as it relates to parking.
Well, it's my understanding that the reason it was necessary for this physical therapist company to come in is because the zoning officer determined that this is a medical use and that he did not feel that that fell into the same category as a bank. So that's why they're here.
So I would agree then that if it's a medical use, and that was the basis of this applicant, then I would accept that for another use. I don't know. I mean, my concern is the parking. I guess we could say that the 4 spaces, if there's a change in the tenant, that the requirement for the 4 spaces be maintained.
Well, Derek, am I wrong? If there's a change now, this tenant departs, and now there is a new tenant who either has a permitted use on the first floor like retail, or again, it's some other kind of office use. Don't you still have to look at the parking independently anyway? Or am I?
Well, the town has relaxed the parking ordinances in the last several years. So there used to be a requirement when you changed from one use to another use.
Right.
If the other use created, there was different categories for different types of uses, 1 or 2 new parking spaces. You had to come in and get a variance. That's been eliminated. Now there is no requirement when you change a use. It only kicks in if you add square footage to a building, because what was happening is a lot of people were coming in for variances and they had nowhere to park because there's no parking on site. They would go through the same exercise at the planning board, and the planning board would grant the variance, and the town thought that it was a, kind of an impediment to having successful businesses in town and filling vacancies, especially, in light of the current, pressures on retail uses and just the general COVID stuff of the last 2 years. But so in general, there's no parking requirement when you change a use unless you add square footage.
Okay, so if the board approves this application, it's approving a medical office, in this case specifically for a physical therapist. So in the future, if a different medical office wanted to occupy this space, if I understand you correctly, Derek, then there isn't going to, there's no basis for you to do another review of parking.
No, I think that they would have to, if that, they would be entitled to this use if I make the analysis that it's a permitted use, and then they would be subject to the requirements that were the the parking requirements that are attached to this resolution of approval.
Exactly. So they would be subject to the same parking requirements as
Yep.
this. And if the 4 spaces were maintained, there'd be no reason to come back.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Now, going back to the original variance permitting the bank use, did that run with the land or with the tenancy of the bank?
I don't, boy, I don't remember, quite frankly. I remember I voted
Well,
against it, but I don't
It said,
remember what.
the last page of the findings of fact said, any future applications for modifications of the terms and conditions of this use variance approval must be made to the zoning board of adjustment. So the way I read that is, you got to come back to this board
Well,
unless it's a medical use. But if it was a lawyer's office, we'd be back here.
Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? Mr. Zinda, you can take down the photo.
Signed it.
Thank you.
I have one question. I swear I wouldn't ask this question except Mr. Hughes mentioned that this would be similarly lively to having a retail operation there. And I have I feel like this is for a lot of reasons, a good idea, a good use of that space. But I am curious that the windows that we just saw, is that where your office will be? So, but I'm assuming that we will not be looking in at people getting physical therapy directly, because that would be
Correct.
That's right. Not in keeping with confidentiality and a lot of other things. So I am just curious to know what the liveliness factor would be. You probably are going to have a wall there or something.
Yeah, so that's going to be our main reception area directly behind those windows. And some things we've done at other locations, whether it's simple blinds on the other side to just close off any viewing from the street, but there will be a wall separating the reception area, waiting room from the rest of the clinic. So that will be the only thing that's visible from the street, if any.
Yeah. So it won't be that exciting, but it will be protecting the confidentiality of the people who are getting physical therapy.
Absolutely.
Which I think is probably more important. Okay, that's.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? I don't believe, Karen, we've gotten to the public portion of the hearing yet?
not yet.
Okay. If there are no other questions, Mr. Cataldo, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
You got it pretty close, Mr. Chairman.
Close, okay. Okay, thank you. Do you want to say anything before we go to the public portion of the hearing?
Just very briefly, I know it's getting late and the board has heard a lot of testimony and asked a lot of very good questions of our professionals. At this time, Jaguan requests that the board grant its use variance request as well as its minor site plan approval, and we submit that we've provided sufficient testimony and adequate proofs for the board to grant that relief.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open it up to the public. Claudia, has anybody indicated they'd like to speak?
There are no hands.
Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public portion. Again, Mr. Cataldo, before we go into executive session, one more opportunity to say something if you'd like to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I summed it up about 30 seconds ago. So we have no further remarks this time, and we leave it to the board to deliberate and vote.
Well done. Okay, board members, comments, questions, any discussion? Or would someone like to make a motion?
I just would like to make sure we're clear on if we're approving this, what we're approving. Is it a, physical therapist use? Is that with qualifications that there's not going to be ambulances You know, I have no problem with it running with the land. If we decide this building is, you know, appropriate for that use. But do we have to make sure the use is narrow? You know, which I think we do. I think this is a good use as described by the applicant, but I want to make sure the approval doesn't open up the door too wide.
I think that based on the last part of the discussion, Mr. Bridger characterized this or determined that this was a medical use. And so I think what we were talking about was if another medical use came in, then this would not require, and again, subject to any parking we decide on, if a medical use came in, then they wouldn't come back to us. They wouldn't have to come back to us. If that use changed for something else that's not in the list of approved uses, then they would have to, like an attorney's office or a real estate office. Is that correct, Mr. Bridger?
But I think Michael is bringing up a good point because the applicant has explained how they're going to run their business. They've made a point of explaining the hours of operation, sort of the maximum number of patients they expect to treat. So, and the same thing, there was the comment that patients will in some fashion have to be ambulatory. There are no ambulettes. I think you're bringing a good point out, Michael, that the board is approving it based on what they're hearing so that a future medical office use, if an applicant came in and said, well, I don't like these hours, I'm not going to do these hours, or I will, you know, I have other thoughts about how I'm going to do this and I'm going to intensify what I'm doing.
I think medical is too broad. The first thing that came to mind was like an urgent care. And I don't even know, that might be a great thing to have. And I don't even know whether that would be, feels like it could be more intense use somehow. So I'm with Michael to maybe narrow it to physical therapy and call it a day. I don't know.
Well, I think, Michael, am I wrong? Weren't you trying to also perhaps tie it a little bit more in terms of the testimony that's been presented tonight?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Mr. Cataldo, does the applicant have issues with this? I mean, my understanding was that Mr. Matisi's testimony was these were sort of maximum projections, that this is the most patients you expect to treat, or you know, there's only so many, you know, employees have staggered schedule, et cetera. Is any of that information something that the applicant would say, I don't want my use, you know, tied to any of these, what should we call it, representations or testimony?
Well, like I think we brought out in the testimony, these are projections. I think Mr. Motisi used the words maximums, but they are estimates at this point. We don't believe that we would you know, go far beyond what Mr. Motisi testified, but we do want to be clear that they are the number of patients that we'll see a day, the number of employees. Those are, you know, that's what we anticipate at this point. It could obviously change in the future, but we are naturally limited by the amount of space, by the amount of square footage in that floor area on how many patients and employees the applicant can see at any given time.
So then what's the board's thoughts then? I mean, I'm going to assume the applicant has no issue with saying no ambulettes. I mean, do you anticipate in the future that you would have people being brought to you by ambulance? I mean, or an ambulette?
I'm trying to think of a time in our history that's happened, and I can't. I've been with the company for 10 years and over 100 clinics, and that's just not our model. It's outpatient physical therapy. It's people that are ambulatory, active population, think of low back pain, bone and joint injury. And that's our population.
So are there other aspects of this that the board wants to tie to the approval?
I would just say that two things from my concern is the bike racks would be a discussion Mr. Bridger would have with our engineer. And the sign is something that I would work with Mr. Bridger and the applicant to resolve.
And my only concern was the parking for patients, but I believe there was a representation that, 4 spaces would be leased for patient use.
Yeah, the
I
parking.
just want people to go in there smoothly and not get worse on their way in.
Us too. Thank you.
And hours of operation, Derek, am I correct that at some point in the future, if the applicant wanted evening hours beyond 6, are there any restrictions in the ordinance about that? Or I didn't think so. No,
they're not.
Okay.
I think 2 a.m. is the cutoff.
Oh, that's not good.
So if we were going to try, and I know we don't have a motion yet, but if the board were outlining what their conditions of approval would be, they're approving an outpatient physical therapy use. The site design, the applicant will sort of revise the sign and submit it to the zoning officer for review with the participation of the board chairman. Applicant will lease 4 parking spaces and provide verification by way of copies of the leases to the zoning officer. No ambulette use will be associated with the approval, and you would like the zoning officer. Well, are we making the bike racks a condition, or they're just going to?
No, I think Mr. Bridger said he would talk to the engineer about it and possibly the building owner. Whatever if they can work something out, that would be good. If not, I don't see it as, it's a very difficult situation on a very tight site to resolve.
So the condition would simply be that there would be a good faith effort or something to see
Yes.
bicycle racks. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Are there any other thoughts by the board?
I think you noted the parking issue.
Well, they've agreed to provide spaces.
Right.
The 4 leased spaces in the garage for patients.
Well, I
Well,
don't
they
think.
said 4 leased spaces.
4 spaces.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it was necessarily in the garage.
It would just be 4 spaces,
Where
however
else?
they choose to use them. It's hard to use, I would imagine, and this would be for the applicant. It's hard to say they're just for patients, and the patients have to find the spaces in there. And I don't know if that's practical. I think we say 4 spaces and they can choose to assign them as they wish.
Yeah, because there's no specification as to where those spaces need to be.
Yeah, we don't know that, right?
No, so if it were for employees,
Right.
then it could be several blocks away if that's what the applicant is able to arrange. I would think that their patients might choose to park in the garage if they can't find on-street parking nearby, but.
Mhm.
And in that regard, we want to be clear that we will take steps to find for parking permits. I'm not sure what it will specifically, whether it will be a lease or whether it will be a permit, but we'll find some type of parking and have evidence that we've secured 4 parking spaces one way or another.
Okay.
That's okay with you, Derek? Doesn't have to be leases? I don't know what the standard is for permits.
Well, we're concerned that we might not, that it might not be a lease. We might just have some type of an agreement or some type of
Okay,
a permit with a
we'll call it
um,
parking
property
agreement.
owner to
Okay.
have that type of arrangement.
Okay.
Okay, now we don't have a motion yet. Are there any other questions, or would someone like to make a motion? Subject to these 4 conditions or not? I think there were 4. Is that right, Karen?
Correct.
I'll make
Yes,
the
Michael.
motion.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion subject to the 4 conditions that Karen has. And for this physical therapy office, a variance for the use.
Good. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second Stein.
Oh, okay, I think, okay.
Yeah, give it to him.
You're shaking your head, Donna.
No, I kind of raised my hand for the second,
I
but
thought
please
so.
give it to Mr. Stein.
Okay,
You get the second.
no problem. Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Chen,
Yes.
Colson,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Tannenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
And I regretted voting no, actually about 14 years ago. I changed my mind. I'll vote yes on this application.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry
Thank you.
that dragged on so long. Okay, our third application is case number Z 22-191, 15 to 17 Edwards Place, block 41.01, lots 62 and 63 in the R4 zone. Karen, is all the paperwork in order?
Yes, the noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Bridger, you're muted, but can you review your memo with us? You're muted. You're still muted. Oh,
No,
there
I'm
you go.
sorry.
That's okay.
Excuse me. Thank you. The board has before tonight an application of Kabad Lebovich on campus, Princeton Incorporated, seeking modification of an approved site plan with variances. Property is located at 15-17 Edwards Place. It's in the R4 zone in the former Princeton Borough. It is also in a Mercer Hill Historic District. The applicant was granted site plan approval with variances on May 26, 2021 to permit additions and expansions of the Kabad House at this site. Copy of the resolution was attached to this memorandum. The applicant is seeking a modification of site plans. Specifically, it's a modification to permit the installation of a different air makeup unit for the kitchen. The new unit results in an increase in the existing degree of non-compliance as follows. The rear stair tower setback requires 35 feet. The previously approved was 9 feet, and the proposed now is 7 feet 2 inches. The air makeup setup, the required setback is 35 feet. The existing previously approved setback was 10 feet 9 inches, and it's 8 feet 7 now. And the height of the air makeup unit also increased. Previous approval was 25 feet 7 inches, and the proposal is 31 feet 7 inches. And then 5 new bike racks have been installed on the eastern property line. The required setback is 5, and they're proposed to be a 0 setback. I'm not going to go over all the D information before the board heard this case. They granted a D variance for an expansion of a non-conforming use and floor area, and then numerous variances for side yard setback, rear yard setback, impervious coverage, and for a sign. So the modification of the The stair tower makeup vent and variance is not anticipated to have any impact on the criteria enumerated in the site plan. That's section 10B 226, except for historic preservation and noise. Elizabeth Kim is here tonight, and I asked her to chime in on this. And we also asked that the applicant address the noise level of the air makeup unit and its any possible effect on the neighboring property. So that's a synopsis of my memo. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you. Okay. Who will be, who's the attorney? Is that Mr. Spadaccini?
Apologize for that, Mr. Cohen. I had my camera looking away from me, so apologize for that.
Not a problem at all.
Steve, before we move on, perhaps since Elizabeth
yes.
Kim is here tonight, let me just
Yes.
swear you in. Elizabeth, do you swear or affirm your testimony this
Yes.
evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, Mr.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and zoning board members. So HPC reviewed this application at their meeting on June 20th. And the amended application was presented to them, and HPC voted unanimously to recommend approval to your board. They felt that as far as historic preservation goes, the minor height adjustment and the size changes were minimal, and still they felt the application was consistent with other properties within the Mercer Hill Historic District. So they had no objection to the amended application.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Spadaccini.
Thank you.
Floor
Mr.
is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As usual, Derek and Elizabeth, thank you for doing a great job. I really don't have a whole lot to say now. We're really going to move to our witnesses, if you will. So we have two witnesses this evening, Catherine Knight, our architect, and Mr. Jim Kyle, our planner. We do not have any exhibits. We're going to work off the plans that we submitted. So Karen, I don't think you're going to have to remark those. You can if you want as exhibits, but they're just the plans that were submitted. So with that said, we'd like to start with Ms. Knight. Karen, if you want to swear everyone in, that would be great.
Ms. Knight, do you swear from your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Oh,
We
you're on
can't
mute.
hear you.
You're on mute. Kathy, you have to.
There you
I
go.
do, sorry.
Thank
Couldn't
you.
find the right button.
And I would say that we would accept Ms. Knight as an expert. She's testified before us before numerous times.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. I appreciate that. Kathy, if you could get started by pulling up the plans and then talking about the revisions that have been made, if you will. And I know the plans are very well laid out, so everything is side by side.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. Thank you, everyone. I will get right through the plans. They're fairly brief. Just to remind you, this is a view of the rendering of the front of the house. There are no changes planned to this from what was approved in the last application. These are the plans, and what we've done to try and keep it fairly simple for everyone is we put side by side the original approval that was made in April of 2021 and what we are proposing now. On the left side is the original approval. The modifications, I'll try and go through them pretty briefly. They are mostly concerning the stair tower in the rear of the property. And the stair tower, I'm just kind of circling right now. It's at the rear, it's behind the taller building. It's very difficult to see much of it from the street, from Edwards Place. And once the engineers proceeded with detailed drawings, they found that the equipment needed to be larger than what we had anticipated. And that is why we're coming back here to show you some new setbacks in the same area that we had before. So the setbacks went, I think Derek already went through this. You probably don't even need these numbers, but the stair in the rear went from 9 feet to 7.2, and the side yard went from 17.10 to 17.8. The other changes, I mean, really the left side is very similar. There happened to be a bike rack in the back here. And once we got some more equipment on the ground, there was not room for the bike rack. So in the proposed site, you can see we've moved it to the left side here, closer to the street. This building has very little parking requirements. The students walk here for all the activities, which is one of the very nice things for the neighborhood. But they do ride bikes. So we definitely wanted to put the bike rack there and we didn't want to lose it. And we actually think it's in a better location. The terrace situation is very similar and the rear sun deck is very similar.
You know, I think since
You want to mark it?
yeah, I think we should because it really highlights very easily what the changes are. So this would be, just tell me what this is called.
It's literally A1. It looks like at the bottom right-hand corner in sheet 1 of 4.
Okay. And what's it, do we know what it's dated? I can't.
Yes, it's May 5th, 2022.
Thank you.
We didn't show the front elevation because, as I said, there's no changes to it. This is the east elevation. At the bottom is what was approved originally. And you see the main building really hasn't changed on the left side. It's only the rear of the building that has had some modifications. What has proposed is shown on the top piece here. The stair tower, because of the complexity of the equipment, it gained 3 feet. So it went from 21 foot 8 inches high to 24 foot 9 inches high. And the reason for that is this piece of equipment we had planned here did no longer, when all the sizing was required by the engineers, did not fit on this roof. So we had to split it into 2 parts. And there is a part inside the building, which raised the height of the building to accommodate that. And we really didn't want to put the equipment, we didn't have a space for it on the ground. We really did not want to put it on the top of the building because it would be much more visible. It's fairly well hidden back here. It's just grown by 3 feet. The rear elevation, you're going to see a similar thing.
Karen, you want to mark that? We'll mark that A2.
Sure.
And the dates are still May 5th. All the dates are the same. This is the rear elevation. So really you'd only be seeing it from a parking lot behind the building, a university parking lot, but you're seeing at the bottom what the original approval looked like. And you see in the top that this stair tower just increased in height because of this piece of equipment that's inside the building as well as the exterior component of the building. And you're looking now on the west side, which is really a driveway. This part is very hard to see from the street as well, because there's a narrow driveway and a building right next door. But here you have what was originally approved on the bottom and the new proposed on the top, 3 feet higher. I don't know if there's anything else. Dino, is there anything else you would like me to review while I have the plans up here?
I don't believe so. I'm sure the board, I don't know if the board will have any questions, to be perfectly honest with you. But no, I think that really covers it. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay.
Okay. Your next witness?
Sure. Any questions for, I mean, she's not going anywhere, but if anyone has-
We'll hold the questions to the end.
Mr. Kyle, our planner, Jim, you've been sworn in. I know you appeared before this board.
Actually, I wasn't sworn in.
We would accept
You were.
Mr. Kyle.
Okay,
He's
well,
been before us a number of times.
Sorry about that. He wasn't sworn in. I thought he was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was my fault. I didn't get my hand up and jump in.
Mr. Kyle, do you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you for accepting him as an expert, Mr. Chairman. Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Is that my cue? Okay, sorry. So I was retained by the applicant just to review the variance issues associated with the amendments before the board. I did review all the plans and also reviewed the zoning ordinance again. This is fairly limited in scope. We've described the variances that are necessary to support the installation of this equipment, as well as relocation of the bike rack to the front right side driveway. Let me just jump right in and talk about the rear setback variances that we need. I think these do qualify as C2 variances where the purposes of the municipal land use law are promoted. Most notably purpose A to encourage the general welfare. Also purpose I to promote a desirable visual environment. So that little further reduction that we have in the rear yard is really necessary to support the installation of this equipment at the rear of the building. As Kathy said, there could have been other locations that this could have gone. This seemed to be the most sensible idea to expand that stair tower slightly towards the parking lot, so it would support that unit on the roof. Really, makes the most sense because it's at the rear of the building, and it will not be visible from Edwards Place, which is important. And as Ms. Kim noted, is probably the primary reason that HPC didn't really have too much of an issue with this proposal. As far as the reduction of the side yard setback, the reduction there is necessary to preserve the pedestrian access to the right side of the building. If you remember the plan, we do have a handicap ramp that runs up that right side, but there is also a walkway that goes to the stair, another means of egress from the sun deck that's at the rear. So if we were to locate the bike rack in a conforming position 5 feet from the property line, it would be right in the middle of that pedestrian access way that is all the way on the right-hand side. So this just allows for the preservation of that access area, which is important. As we discussed back in April of 21, there are functions that occur. Most students come on bike or foot. So we need to preserve that means of ingress and egress for life safety considerations. As far as any impact of these reductions on surrounding properties, as noted, parking lot 8 for the university is at the rear. There's also a stone building that is immediately north of our building that is used for storage and maintenance by the university. There's no other residential structure that is immediately to our rear. So this should not have any substantial impact on the adjacent properties. It's also important to note that the stair tower is not going to be any closer than the sunroom. That was approved at a 5-foot setback, and this is within that at 7 feet 2 inches. So we're not going beyond the plane of the building that's closest to the rear yard. As far as the intent and purpose of these standards, the obvious intent here is to address light, air, and open space. There's no specific basis for these in the master plan, but from a general planning perspective, that's what setbacks are intended to address. I think given the fact that we have quite simply just a university parking lot at the rear, which is where the most impact would be, I believe the intent of that is preserved. And again, we're not going any closer than that sunroom at 5 feet. So I think the benefits of the relief here outweigh any detriment. As far as the height relief that was identified, again, qualifying as a C2 where the benefits outweigh the detriments. Also purpose A, general welfare, and also purpose I, desirable visual environment. Essentially for the same reasons. This just makes the most sense to expand the footprint of the stair tower at the rear so we can put this equipment in a location where it's not as visible. As far as any impact to surrounding properties, while this is interpreted as the need for a height variance, we're not going any higher than what's permitted for the zone district at 35 feet. We also are not going to be any taller than the existing roof. So most of this will be hidden. Any of that height will be hidden from the front. And really the impact is limited from the rear again, just because it's a parking lot and is not a residential structure. And then as far as the intent and purpose of the height restrictions, again, no specific rationale for the standard. I would note the makeup air unit that we have is narrow and it's slightly set back from the edge of the roof. So it really doesn't have any potential to have any great impact. The stair tower will be closer. And we are going to screen that as well. As you saw on Kathy's architectural plan, there is some screening that is proposed around that makeup air unit that will hide it quite well. So I think given the use that we have to the rear, the combination, the screening, I don't think there's any substantial impairment to the intent of that height standard. And I think the benefits, again, here outweigh any detriments. Mr. Chairman, that's all I had in the way of direct. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Spadaccini.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, board members, do you have any question of the applicant's attorney or the witnesses? Okay, If there are none, Mr. Spadaccini, we're going to go into public session. Do you want to say anything before we do that?
I think I learned from the last application or earlier ones. I'll leave well enough alone, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. I'm going to open this up to the public. Claudia, do we have anyone who's indicated they would like to speak?
No, no hands are up.
Okay, so we'll close the public portion. And once again, Mr. Spadaccini, I will ask you before we go into executive session.
I'm going to take a pass again, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, though.
Good decision. Okay. So let's go to executive session. Does anyone have any questions, comments, suggestions, or would someone like to make a motion?
Makes sense to me. It looks good. I support it. So.
I would agree. So are you
Well, if
making,
no one else is commenting, then I'll make a motion to approve.
okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of the motion? Okay, Claudia,
Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
I'm going to abstain. You know, I voted against this before because it was so many variances and just too much. So even though these variances are incidental, it's just more. So I'll just abstain.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Ms. Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Chairman,
everybody.
members of the board.
Have a good evening.
Does anyone need a break before we go to our last and final hearing of the night?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We'll take, it is 10:09, 5 minutes, 10:14. We'll come back.
Cheers.
Okay, it is 10:14. Claudia, are we recording again?
Yes.
Okay, are we all back? Karen's back. We seem to all be here. Bernice, okay, all right. Okay, on to our last hearing of the night, case Z 22-018, 27 Hillside Road, block 7207, lot 6 in the R6 zone. Karen, paperwork in order?
It is. The noticing is correct and the board has jurisdiction tonight.
Thank you. Derek, can you review your memo, please?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Mito and Rima Kanzaria are the owners and applicants of 27 Hillside Road. They're seeking a floor area ratio to permit additions to the rear elevation of an existing single-family home, and a front yard setback variance is required to permit a small bump out addition over the garage. Subject properties in the R6 zone in the former Princeton Township. The existing single-family use is permitted as of right. The lot is non-complying with regard to the required 85-foot lot width and frontage. The existing is 80 feet. The subject's complying with the other applicable bulk regulations. Applicant is proposing to add 2 small window bump out additions to the front elevation and replace the existing sunroom in the rear with a new addition. The 18-inch by 17 bump out over the garage will encroach into the prevailing front yard setback. The existing 12 by 20 sunroom on the rear elevation will be converted to year-round living. A 12 by 20 master bedroom will be constructed over top of the sunroom, and a 12 by 28 kitchen addition with a full basement will be constructed adjacent to the sunroom. These additions result in a need for a floor area ratio variance. The maximum permitted is 25%. The existing is 23.71, and the proposed will be 29.44. As you know, with previous FAR variances, the applicant shall demonstrate that the site can accommodate the problems associated with the increased floor area, and not that the site is particularly suited for more intensive development. The bulk variance in the front bump out garage encroaches into the 25-foot front yard setback. The existing setback is 26 feet and the proposed is 24.5 feet. And they've requested consideration under the C1 criteria for the bulk variance. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Casey, I assume you're representing the applicant?
Yes, maybe the last man standing over here. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, and perhaps it's almost good night, but we will try to be brief in our presentation. I'm representing the Canzarias, and they are the owners of this house, and they're trying to seeking a FAR variance for renovations to the house. And they will be two of the witnesses, and then we will have our engineer / professional planner, Jay Shah, also testify. So we will have three witnesses, and I'd like to have those witnesses sworn, and so we can begin our presentation.
Claudia, I don't see them on the screen. Do you still need to move them over?
I'm trying to.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Casey, I see Rima name over there. Who's the third? What title would they have?
They are all under the same roof. Jay
Okay.
Shah,
Good.
he's the engineer, so they'll all share that screen.
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay, they need to be visible, all visible, so we can swear them in, I guess.
Okay. Alrighty. So Mr. and Mrs. Canzaria and Mr. Shah will swear you in now. Do you all swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
You're fine.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
It's okay. Okay.
Good. What I'd like to do first off is to call upon the Canzarias. Rima, I don't know if you want to take the lead on this, but will you tell the board what your plan is for the renovations to your home at 27 Hillside? No, that's Jay. Jay, we want Rima and
Yes.
Mito. There they are.
I think, Mr. Shaw, you have to mute your, right.
All right.
So, hi, my name is Rima Kanzaria, and this is Mithil Kanzaria. We moved here a year ago. My dad is right here. He is Jay Shah. He is our professional planner and engineer. So that's why we have a little bit of feedback. So we're fixing that. We moved here a year ago. Mithil is a cardiologist at Robert Wood Johnson, and I'm an attorney. We have two children at Little Brook. Our son is going to be going into 3rd grade, and our daughter is going to be going into kindergarten. We plan on making this home our home for many, many years to come. Like I said, my father, Jay Shah, is our engineer and will supervise the renovation of our home. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so this is a view of a rendering that we have made, and this is the. Ooh. Okay. And this is the existing home currently. So you can see, as you can see here, so our home is a 3-bedroom split level with a 2-car garage. It was built approximately in 1957, 1958. There is 1 bathroom upstairs, and the only other bathroom is in the basement, which is accessed through the garage. The main floor is split into 3 closed off rooms, the kitchen, the living room, and the dining room. We don't have any central air, so we rely on one built-in to the wall unit in the dining room and the window units upstairs in the bedroom. So as you can imagine, it's been hot this past couple of weeks. We would like to update the home to include more efficient cooling and heating options throughout the home. The windows in the bedroom, as you can see up here, those are not up to code as our engineer has told us. They don't have an egress. Those are both the children's bedrooms. And when my daughter, who's 5, is in there, she can't see out of that window. So she has to stand on her bed to be able to look out of that window. So that just seems a little dangerous to us. So the exterior is brick, but it's very one-dimensional. As you can see, it's flat. There's no depth to it. There's no aesthetic excitement to it. And so there's also a sunroom in the back, which I can pull up, which is exhibit D2. Is that one? No, that one. That one. No. Oh, maybe it's not there. I don't know.
Find it.
Well, yeah, so here's an example of the sunroom in the back. Currently, that top portion is not there. It just ends at the sunroom at that level. That sunroom is windowed in, and we can use it all year round right now, currently, but we use it for storage. We want to make it more of a functional room. And so we want to make that into a guest room with a guest bath, also to bring a bathroom inside the home that's not going through the garage to get to the bathroom. So next I want to talk about the neighborhood. This is the house across the street. This is number 28 Hillside. This is 21 Hillside, and this is 35 Hillside. And these are the last two were houses next to us, and the first one was the house across from us. As you can see, they're all modern and updated, and we would like to bring our home up to that standard. We really do love this area, and specifically our street. It is like the perfect mix and the best of all worlds. It provides a perfect place for our family to grow. It's walkable to the middle school and the high school, and we walk and ride bikes to the pool and to the library. And so we are, really enjoying staying here and using everything that Princeton has to offer. The neighborhood is a mix of older homes and newer homes, but if you're just driving around, you can see that multiple homes are going through renovation or even, complete gutting. So next, the renovations we want to do is, the first thing is there's this, so those windows that we discussed in the beginning are here. We want to bump them out so we can have, while it doesn't add much floor space, it adds a little bit more dimension and something a little bit more interesting on the home, and more aesthetically pleasing. And the windows, of course, will be bigger, so it's a lot safer. Same thing on the bottom. These windows in the living room, they are aluminum currently, and they're from the 50s. And so in the summertime, in the wintertime, it's just, there's a very big breeze that comes in through there. So we don't really get we get a draft, but we don't get our bill becomes pretty high. So we need to change that. Yes, okay, and the existing sunroom, as I mentioned, would become a guest bedroom here with a bathroom. And then up here, where this is an extension, this would add to the primary bedroom so we can have a primary bathroom and a closet upstairs, and if we can fit a laundry room up there. And then over here, this is just an extension of the main floor that adds on to the main floor with the dining room, living room, and kitchen. And what that will do is we'll be able to put a food pantry in there, which right now we don't have any kind of space for food. And maybe potentially a half bath. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, Rima, can I just ask you one question? Have you spoken to your nearest neighbors and shown them what you plan?
Yes, we have, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. We've had people walk by. I think we had 27 people that we noticed, because in this area there were within 200 feet, and we've been talking to quite a few people, and people seemed to have a positive reception to it and said, yeah, you need a little bit more space for a family of four, and we've gotten positive reception, as I said.
Is there currently a construction ongoing across the street, or a reconstruction renovation?
Yeah, right across the street, next to the home, next to 21 Hillside, there was a renovation being done, but they're not adding anything. But if you look on Ewing, on the other side of Terhune, there's a renovation going on there. A renovation just finished on Walnut and Valley, of a similar house to ours. So the houses are all moving towards a more modern aesthetic.
Good. What we can do is hear from your father next, but I think the chair may want to entertain, or the board will ask questions, and if they have any of you and your husband.
We can wait. We can wait till the presentations are over and ask at one time.
That's fine. All right. What I'd like to do is have our next and last witness, Jay Shah, on the screen, and Rima, if you will assist him with putting up and sharing the screen with some of his drawings. Jay?
Yes.
There he is. Jay, you give us an idea of your professional credentials, educational background, and experience.
Yes. No, just go ahead.
We don't have to get into the drawings yet. Just tell us about yourself and
Yes.
your professional credentials.
Yes. I received my master's in civil engineering from Old Dominion University in Virginia in 1971. I've been a New Jersey registered professional engineer for last 45 plus years, and New Jersey professional planner for last 40 plus years.
I think we would recognize you as a professional, as an expert.
Good. Even though he's in-house, but
Right.
That's what we can afford right
I
now.
don't know if being in-house, I'm not sure if it's good or bad.
Well, they've been through this once before, so we'll figure that out. Rima, can you put up the plans that your father has presented as part of your application? All right, and Jay, you want to take us through the plan page by page and very briefly, if you can. I don't think the first page is, well, if there is anything on the first page, there is a block I see about FAR calculations, and you have the bulk calculations in another box adjacent to it. Your survey, what else is important about this? Can you show us the rooms and what you plan to do? What is the new square footage that's going to go on here?
Okay. We are extending the main level where kitchen is. We are squaring that off with the sunroom, and their addition is 12 by 20, 28 by 12. And then we are adding extending it to our primary or master bedroom on the second floor, above the sunroom, which is 20 by 12.
All right, I see that.
Yeah.
And then just for the record, the calculation that you made on the FAR,
Yes.
on the left corner of it, that's where we're seeking relief from that.
Right. New
standard.
area at the bedroom level is 240 square feet. Living room level is 336 square feet. Bedroom box window is about 26 square feet, and living room box window is about 16 square feet. And the total square footage is 38 square feet, and that works out to be 29.44%, while the existing is 28.41. No, 23.41. 23.41.
So as far as the square footage goes, that almost all of the square footage is to the rear of the existing house. And as to the front, it's just the box windows that stick out a little bit, and actually the bedroom, I'm sorry, the bedroom box windows, they intrude into the the front yard setback by 6 inches, I understand.
Correct.
Are you
All right,
counting? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and as far as, I don't know if it's in the upcoming drawing, but you talk about squaring off the back of the house and making the lot, the foundation line, square, with the additions filled in there. Can you show a cursor or show where that is across the back?
Yeah.
All right, so that's where that is on the right-hand side of the screen where you're filling in the rear addition is going in there. Okay. And can you want to go to the other two drawings if you have anything on those? Just tell us what we see there.
Okay. Yes, what we see in the front is the box windows. On the rear elevation, we see the addition at the kitchen level or main floor level, and the addition above the sunroom.
Okay. And is there one other sheet, or is that it?
No, that's it. 3.
Okay. Then in addition to this is your work product. These are your drawings, correct?
Yes.
And in addition to that, did you conduct a study of in the neighborhood of nearby lot dimensions and FAR numbers?
Yes, I did.
And what do we see on the screen now?
Okay, the box is marked red as non-conforming. Box is marked green. They are conforming lots. And on the Hillside Road, there are 14 lots that face Hillside Road, and 9 of them are non-conforming.
Non-conforming as to
the lot width,
Right.
dimensions, yes.
So
And
our lot is 80 feet wide and 80 foot of frontage, and the standard is 85 feet.
Correct.
And that's pre-existing, and it's up to the board as to whether or not we need a variance for that, but I think that's self-explanatory. Now, do you have another plan, a study of the FAR?
Correct.
And can you take us through that to show where our lot is, and what about these adjoining lots or budding lots?
Yeah, our lot is lot 6, which is marked in orange, and then in blue, there are a lot on either side of us. Our lot is 6. That means number 5 and number 7. Number 5 is 31.56% compared to 25%, and that's 21 Hillside Road, and on the other side, on the left side, is 35 Hillside Road, which is 31.56% FAR compared to 25%.
So the ones in blue, they exceed the 25% standard. Correct?
One in blue are the ones that are non-conforming.
Right. As to FAR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As to the FAR, the floor area ratio?
Yes, floor area ratio on this sketch, it shows that the top is the 31.56% for lot 5 compared to 25%, and 35 Hillside Road is 28.29% compared to 25%.
Right.
And lot 13?
Lot 13 is 35.07% compared to increased FAR of 32% for the lot size, and the other one is lot Lot 11 is 32.21% compared to 32%.
Okay.
All right, with regard to wearing your hat as a professional planner, as part of this application, your daughter and son-in-law submitted a statement in support of their variances. And Rima, can you put that up on the screen? I think it was post number 2. There it is. And could you go down to the bottom of that page, or scroll down to the bottom? And Jay, I ask you whether you contributed to this exhibit here, this statement in support of variances.
Yes.
Okay. And with regard to if I draw your attention to the paragraph that's shown at the bottom of the exhibit, and referring to the second sentence, is it your opinion that that this application meets the standards for an FAR-D4 variance, and that the site can accommodate any problems associated with the increase in FAR to the rear of the home, and it is your opinion that the increased FAR will not overburden this site?
Correct.
And will the renovations fit within the neighborhood in terms of FAR and in terms of lot size, and also with regard to aesthetics and the modernizing of the neighborhood? Will this be a good fit?
Yes, it will be a good fit.
And flipping over to the last page, or scrolling to the last page, is it your opinion in the top paragraph here that that this application will meet the special reasons and positive criteria for a use variance, and that it will serve and satisfy several purposes of zoning? And we've enumerated those here as A, B, C, and D, and they are the appropriate use of land, the establishment of appropriate population densities, and C, providing sufficient space at appropriate locations for a residential use, and D, and probably most important of all, promoting a desirable visual environment, and that the new front facade will upgrade the overall appearance of the house and contribute to the aesthetics of the neighborhood. Do you
Yes.
support those conclusions?
Yes.
Okay. And the next paragraph, as the negative criteria, is it your opinion that this application will satisfy the negative criteria requirement of the statute by confining the expansion to the rear of the property, so that there will not be a negative impact to the neighborhood, nor will there be any detriment to the zone plan, in that the renovation will be compatible with and complement the residential character of the residential neighborhood and its zoning?
Yes.
You are in agreement with that?
Yeah, agree.
Good. Mr. Chairman, that's all we have as far as our presentation goes.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions of the applicant, the attorney, or the witness?
Yes, I do have a question.
George, please.
The question goes to the applicant and possibly also Mr. Bridger. For all of the houses that are in excess of the floor area ratio nearby, are there variances that were granted to provide that excess?
I don't know, but I can say there have been numerous changes to the FAR code over the last 10 years. There were previously exceptions for garages that were part of the house up to 280 square feet, and attic definition has changed to, so what would have been a complying house 10 years ago, if it had a garage, there was an exemption for that. So things change. I haven't reviewed the data, but, you know, the code has changed with respect to FARs, and it's
Thank
made
you.
more properties non-conforming.
Anything else, George?
If the applicant wishes to respond to that question.
Yeah, I'd like him to.
I just did some quick research on the previous applications, and I didn't see any applications for any Hillside Road applications that are listed on the zoning website. Beyond that, I didn't know how to find out that information. Thank you.
So, George, anything else?
No, that was it.
So I have a question. So how many, so it looks like we're adding 4.4% to the, over the maximum allowable of 25, and that represents about 488 square feet. Over an
Hey, can you
11,000.
confirm that, looking at that block, the block of FAR calculation on the plan? I don't have it handy unless I would do it.
It's below that somewhere. Yeah, here it is.
There it is.
So 26 total area. So you're 26, 20, 32, 4. Doesn't quite appear. So you're 26 to 32. So you're 600, looks like a little over 600 square feet of addition. And right now you're at 2371. So you're
26.
1.3 over, let me see what that is. 1.3 times. So you would be allowed around another 143 square feet, and you're adding 488. So you're adding about 340 more than you're allowed. Now, does this area includes the garage?
Yes.
The garage and family room, and the garage of that, do you know how big is the garage of that 840 square feet? How big is the garage? Do you know
It's
roughly?
400 plus square feet.
400 what?
Little over 400 square feet.
400. So most of this overage, in a sense, is the garage. Now, Derek, you said previous, do we have any exemption for garage space anymore?
Only if it's detached and behind the rearmost wall of the house, it's exempt at 300 square feet.
200.
300, excuse me.
300.
Yes, sir.
But it has to be detached and behind the house.
Well, it could be attached, but it has to be behind the most rear part of the house. The idea was they wanted to reward garages that were away from the front of the house,
Okay.
not facing the street or side entry.
Okay. So, okay, so basically, in a sense, I'm trying to think if there's a rationalization for this, and I think maybe, and we'll see what the other board members feel, it's the bulk of it is the garage. It's not taking an exemption for garage space. And the overage would be significantly less if we took that exemption, because when I look at the addition, it's just enclosed area. It won't change the footprint of the structure. It'll just change the enclosed area. And so, well, again, that's my comment. Okay, that was my question, and I think I've answered my own question.
May I make a comment on that?
Sure.
Now, and this sort of informational question partly to Mr. Bridger. Under the former ordinance on zoning, before they imposed the restriction on moving garages to the rear. A garage would have allowed 200 feet square foot exemption. Is that correct?
280 square feet.
280?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So we're like, so right now, if you're using that rationalization, George, we might be about 60 square feet over.
That's
And,
right.
and there's one other thing, Mr. Shaw, did you included the bump outs in the front in your floor area?
Yes,
And how much is that in
that's
terms of
42 square feet.
42 square feet? That's interesting. And because you're not going to pull that whole front wall of the house out, are you?
No, no.
You're just going to have the windows project out
Windows
and then you're
projecting out.
boxing in all that.
Right,
So that's just basically dead air.
right.
I mean, it's basically just enclosed area between the existing brick wall and the new wall.
Correct.
So it's all for aesthetics. So if that's 40 square feet of the 60, it brings it down even further. Maybe that's a warped interpretation of it, but it minimizes the overage in FAR. So.
Well, that's just because you think like an architect probably, and
I think like I'm designing the house and this is what I would do. No, I wouldn't do that. But no, it's just a comment. So, all right. So that was the only question I had. And does anyone else have any questions on this? Okay, George, you asked yours. If anybody else has none, then Mr. Casey, we're going to go open this up to the public. Do you want to say anything before we do?
no, I don't think it's necessary. I think we've covered all bases.
Okay, all right. Claudia, do we have anyone in the audience, or anybody who's indicated they'd like to speak?
1 second, I have somebody.
Oh, okay. Anybody out there? Claudia?
Yes, this is
For what?
Susan Bell, one of the public person with the
Yes.
question.
Okay,
Can you, is it possible for you to let us see you?
Oh, let me try. I thought I had that on. I do have my camera on. I don't know what's wrong.
we can't see you though.
Let me see. Start video. Okay. Oh, there I am.
There you are.
There you
Okay.
go.
Okay,
Hello.
could we get your name first and your address?
Yes, Susan, Susan,
Mhm.
Bell, Bell.
And your address, ma'am?
I'm actually in Alabama. My mother owns the house at 15 Hillside Road.
All right, so you're speaking on
For-
behalf of your mom or?
Yes.
Okay. And we're just going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, please.
Okay. So my understanding with the square footage is that the house will be, if this is approved, will be approximately 24% larger than it is right now.
No, I don't
No.
think it's about 4%, 4.5% roughly larger than it is now.
Okay, the house is 2,600.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, you're right. Let me figure this out. It's 2,600. It's going to be 3,200.
Right.
So it's, what are we doing?
Ballpark a fourth larger than it is.
Yes.
Okay.
19%.
19,
Yeah,
okay, 19, okay.
19%.
So how does that affect public utilities such as water, sewer, that thing? Does it have any effect on that to have this increase?
Mr. Casey, you or your
Yeah,
engineer?
I mean, it's going to have an effect on taxes once the assessor, reviews it. But as far as I don't know if the town, as far as sewage is on water, Derek would maybe know better whether it's just a regular connection or it's plugged into more water usage, or what the formula is there. I don't.
There's
think
a,
it would- Go,
excuse
Derek.
me, thank you, Bob. There is a formula based on bedrooms that are added. There's a fee assessed to the Kanzarias that they'll have to pay before they get issued a building permit. And then I believe the sewer fee is based on the water usage of the house.
Okay.
But I mean, the infrastructure is there, because I know some of the other homes on the street have been enlarged also, or torn down and larger ones built. I'm just asking if we've got enough infrastructure there to handle all these increases.
Well, I would think that this is a very, very minimal uptick in, impact on the overall, utility demand within the town. This is, if you ran that calculation with water and even whatever, it would have minimal impact. And I think, just for your sake, the uptick, the benefit outweighs any potential detriment, because the values in the neighborhood and keeping houses up in the neighborhood is contributing to your mother's value of your mother's house. And that's all positive.
I wasn't trying to be negative or say that we're against this at all. I mean, I was just curious, just asking questions.
I think you're only adding a half, you're not adding any bathrooms, right? You're just relocating the half bath, or?
I thought they were adding 2 bathrooms.
Can I say something? Number of people are still same 4 people are living here. So even if they have more bathrooms, that doesn't mean that it's going to be using that much more.
Yeah.
So as far as the utility goes, there shouldn't be much difference.
Okay. Well, that makes sense right there. I wasn't sure how many people would be there. But you did raise a question about increasing the value, which would increase our property taxes also, right?
Not necessarily. It's going to increase our property taxes. Maybe yours will go down if ours goes up. That's not a given, even though it's a given that taxes generally go up. I hear you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, you're done? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I'm finished.
Okay,
Yes.
no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Claudia, is there anyone else out there who'd like to speak on this application?
There's no one left.
Okay. So I'm going to close the public portion of the hearing. And once again, Mr. Casey, would you like to say anything before we go into executive session?
No, I will submit on what we have previously put forth, that we respectfully request that the board grant the D4 variance plus the front yard setback. And I don't know what the board's policy is on the pre-existing lot frontage and lot width variances, but if they're included, we ask that they be granted also.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Derek, the lot width and area are existing conditions.
That hasn't been the board's practice to grant variances for pre-existing conditions unless Derek opines that, they're being impacted by the proposed project. So.
Correct.
So would we need to grant a variance for the lot area?
No, I mean, your practice has been you would grant a variance in this case, if you want to approve it for the FAR and for the front yard setback.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right. Okay, anybody, anyone have any questions on this? Okay, okay, Mr. Casey, we're gonna go into executive session. Do you want to say anything?
No, nothing more. As I say, we'll submit on the record that we have presented the testimony and especially the statement that we have entered, in the record that Mr. Shaw testified to.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna go into executive session. Members, any comments, concerns, motions on this application? Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I guess I support the applications. I understand your questions and concerns about FAR, and I kind of discourage myself from, making adjustments that don't appear under current zoning. Well, if you don't count the garage, and this is what board members were doing, not the applicant. We deal with the code as it exists now
Right.
and what's required. I think under the D4, it's really hard not to approve this. There's not a lot of variances, it's not like increase FAR, but all kinds of setback problems and things like that. It's within the envelope, so I look at the D4. It's really tough to not approve it. I mean, what extra burden is being put on?
I agree. You said it a lot better than I did.
I put a lot of thought into it this afternoon. And
Okay.
and tried to, and did more research in Jersey law. So,
Okay. Any other comments, motions, questions? Okay, well, would someone like to make a motion? One way or the other?
I'll move to approve the D4.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion of the motion?
Steve, just to confirm,
Right.
the motion and the second is for both variances, correct? D4 and the front
Yeah.
yard. Got it. Okay.
Just as a quick aside, just a comment as an architect, if you want to save a little money, do the addition out of wood siding. It'll look good with the house rather than spending the money on brick. But that's all I want to say about that. Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll, please?
Ken,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Floyd,
yes.
Mr. Tannenbaum, Harlan,
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Claudia. Yes.
it's okay. Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Ms. Donna,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Mr. Shaw, don't send them a bill.
Right.
It's
Thank
what I would call a relative mistake, a mistake made by a relative.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Enjoy the
totally
house.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the late hour.
Okay.
Yes,
you
thank
guys.
you.
All right.
Okay, I think we're done. So see you all next month.
Good
Anybody-
night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Right.
Okay,
Good
thank you.
night.
Good night.
Michael, I appreciate your interest in research. I feel like you're doing more research these days, and
Yeah, no, it's good.
I admire it. I appreciate it.
It's the second week in a row that our meeting that I had to face the facts that I didn't totally understand D4 and how you can approve or vote against it. It's so nebulous as far as, it's not the ordinance that you go by, it's the master plan when they say the zone plan. You may not have known, it's not the ordinance. It's and nothing gets more nebulous than the master plan. It's the old saying about, you can get an indictment on a ham sandwich. The same thing with the master plan, in my opinion, when you read all that nebulous, nice stuff. But yeah, it's hard to sort of get by. Well, wait a minute, why should I give them a FAR, an FAR approval? Well, because on a D4 you can. And what does it mean by the site can handle the increased FAR? What is overburden as they use today? So it's since, you can have a house that has 3 bedrooms in it and they can split a rec room and have 4 with no addition. So adding a bedroom doesn't necessarily preclude approving it. If it doesn't really increase that much the activity there, so.
Any other variances, like you said, if there are other variances for setbacks, parking, height to setback or impervious coverage, those are all, like you could point to those as harming the zone plan,
Yeah.
or the ordinance.
The real burden is not the FAR, it's if there's other variances attached to it, which this didn't really have. They had that half a foot.
It was nice to see somebody save a house and not tear down a house,
Exactly.
Drive down that street and I would say half are new in the last 10 years. And
yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Michael. That was
Yeah,
good.
good job, Michael.
But, they could, and they're not increasing their population, they say it's a guest room. Of course, they could sell the house 7 years from now and somebody can make it into a permanent bedroom and the population increases, but that's, you can think through all the possibilities if you think about it. But
good job.
Good, thank you.
Thanks for your diligence. Good night.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good to see you, everyone. Good to see you, Harlan.
Hi, good to see you, Sir. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night. Thank you.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Steve and others, you'll be interested when that sort of modern Victorian Madison Avenue house.
Oh.
It's been redesigned.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a bit more in line.
Oh, good.
It went to historic preservation like a week ago, and I watched that.
I'll have to see it.
They still got FAR problems, but we'll see when we get there. But yeah.
Okay. Is it on the website?
I don't know if historic preservation posts theirs. I think they might do YouTube. You could find it.
I think you're right.
All the boards and committees have the meetings recorded and they should be uploaded by now.
Oh, good. I'll look.
Yeah, it's should be good.
Good. Okay, well,
Yeah,
thank
I'm gonna
you.
stop recording, so have a good
Yes.
night.
Good night, all.
Thanks.
Okay, thank
Take
you
care.
again, Michael,
Everyone.
Steve,
Yeah, thanks.
Harlan,
Good night.
Derek.
Yeah.
Good night.
Night.